gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. Try not to hold me down, feel alive when I'm in this town. Look at those beautiful stars, I wanna drive a faster car. Nothing can break me, no, no, nothing can break me. Try not to hold me down, feel alive when I'm in this town. Look at those beautiful stars, I wanna take a trip to Mars. Nothing can break me, no, no, nothing can break me.
Awesome. Good afternoon, and welcome to the 5th annual Heartland Challenge Startup Competition, final round. Final round. There we go, now you're with me. For those of you who don't realize this, we are being joined by a live stream audience, being beamed into households across the world through that camera right there. And we have no way of knowing how many people are watching this live, but I like to think we have millions of investors across the country tuning in to view our competitors and learn more about their companies. This afternoon is the culmination of 2 days of intense competition. We've welcomed 12 teams in Northwest Arkansas from across North America, and we are about to see the results of all that hard work through the presentations of our 5 finalist teams. It doesn't hurt that these teams are vying for a prize pool worth over $100,000. We've been clear with the teams from the beginning that this is more than a competition. The Heartland Challenge is designed to provide connections to our vibrant community of mentors and judges, feedback that is direct, constructive, and meaningful, as well as a chance to win some seed funding for these businesses. Throughout the weekend, we've seen these teams embody the entrepreneurial spirit that is such an important part of our community here in Northwest Arkansas. They've had to adapt, evolve, embrace change, and as every piece of feedback is given and a resource provided, these teams have been willing to expand their thinking and improve their results. That flexibility and stick-to-itiveness will be a huge competitive advantage as they continue these businesses forward. I'm sure I speak for all of our competitors and our team at OEI when I express our deepest gratitude to all of our judges across all the rounds of this competition. Your gift of time and feedback impacts each attendee of this event way beyond just this weekend. Each of you have provided advice that these teams will remember as a moment of inflection in their companies. As we have said many times, we cannot put on an event like this without the support of our sponsors, and so we thank them as well. Without our sponsors, we could not make this happen. I'd also like to thank ChatGPT for helping me write these talking points. ChatGPT's unparalleled prowess in linguistics virtuosity has been instrumental in the formulation and refinement of the oration herein presented. With heartfelt reverence, I proffer my sincerest thanks to ChatGPT, whose unwavering dedication to linguistics excellence has rendered the arduous task of speechcraft an endeavor of sublime delight and scholarly enlightenment. Finally, let's say congratulations to all of our competitors. And let's get on to that final round. Okay, the format of the round is similar to the others, but with 20 minutes of Q&A instead of 15. Teams will have 15 minutes to present uninterrupted, and the moderator will give a 5-minute and 1-minute warning. There are lots of people in this room, and I'm sure you're going to be excited to contribute, but Q&A is only for the judges. Finalist teams, you may view the presentations of teams that follow you, but not those that come before you. When I invite the first presenting team to come to the front of the room, the rest of you should exit and wait until your appointed time to enter. Now I'm going to turn it over to our lead judge, M.K. Marsden, to begin introductions of our finalist judges.
Thank you very much, Phil. So congratulations to everybody who's here. It's always a privilege to be able to judge this business plan competition. I'm M.K. Marsden. I'm the managing partner of a growth specialty boutique. We do use AI and data to help companies grow, and we target the mid-market. ChatGPT helps a lot. This panel of judges are experts in investing and in each of the areas of the business plan competition. So I'll ask each one to stand up, turn to the camera, and introduce themselves.
Hi, Chidozie Agwoma. I'm the managing partner of Symbiosis. We're an investment firm based here in Bentonville, focused on the application of advanced biology to treating and curing serious and life-threatening diseases. We're investing out of a $500 million evergreen fund across a range of therapeutic modalities like genetic medicines, traditional biologics, cell therapies, and precision small molecule, and across a range of disease areas: oncology, CNS, cardiometabolic, et cetera. It's nice to be here.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Rosa Hathaway. I'm head of non-local investments at Atento Capital. Atento Capital is the early stage investment arm of the George Kaiser Family Foundation. We are focused on unlocking unsung potential in the city of Tulsa. My background is in aerospace engineering, where I spent a decade at SpaceX working on the rocket engines that power Falcon 9 and Starship. And that's my area of focus today. Thank you for having me.
Hi, I'm Bobby Sandage. I'm an alumni from the University of Arkansas College of Pharmacy. I spent almost 40 years in the pharmaceutical industry doing new drug development. The last 13 years in venture capital. I'm the managing director for the Paula and Roger Riney Foundation and Light Chain Capital, a venture capital firm that focuses mainly in life sciences, and we're based in St. Louis.
Hi, my name is Tracy Poole. I'm the founder and one of the partners at 46 Venture Capital. We have offices in Bentonville and offices in Tulsa. We manage a handful of venture funds that are mostly pre-seed to Series A investment targets, including one that we just announced last night called Dixon in Maine. Dixon in Maine is designed to wrap around the University of Arkansas system and provide friendly capital to this entire thing that we are talking about today. What's unique about Dixon in Maine is we also, through the manager's carried interest, a substantial portion of that comes back to the university to refuel and sustain the things that we're all working on in the local ecosystem. And thank you.
I'm going back though. Good. All right. Thank you. Okay, thank you to our judges. We are ready to begin the competition. And I can't remember where on this page it tells me to say the next thing. There it is. Now I'm going to welcome the first team to the stage. So our first competitors for this afternoon is Curvature from Johns Hopkins University. And again, will the rest of the competitors please leave at this time?
Woke up in your new apartment in your twin-sized bed. Coffee started, don't remember much.
I'm Evan Haas, CEO of Curvature, and we're leading a data-driven revolution in the way that we treat and assess spine patients. The spine market is huge and ever-growing as our population becomes more and more geriatric. We spend more time hunched over in front of Zoom screens and computers. This market is only going to continue to grow, and there is a huge problem in the way that we treat and assess patients for spine care that leaves a mess of extra waste of spend on this. And a patient story that we met at Johns Hopkins will always stick with me. So this patient was named Jane, and she allowed us to share her story. She went in with back pain to her first doctor, got x-rays, and then got a treatment recommendation for surgery. Jane was scared, didn't really want to do surgery. As everybody knows, spine surgery outcomes are a mixed bag. She went and got a second opinion that was completely different than the first opinion. Jane, completely bewildered, went to a third doctor, yet again, giving a completely different treatment recommendation. Completely confused, Jane decided to go with the first doctor that she saw, and it ended up badly for Jane. Jane had a first surgery that failed. She had to have a second and a third spine surgery, and that's where we met her at Hopkins. This is all too common. The treatment pathway of patients is non-optimized, non-specific to their spine, and it leads to an incredible amount of waste. The scariest part about it is up to 17% of surgeries, that's over 250,000 surgeries in spine every single year, are completely unnecessary. I've seen it in my family where my grandpa and my uncle had both procedures, had to have multiple revisions, go back and hunting for a way to try to relieve their pain. It is truly atrocious for these patients. How do we get here? So currently the spine market has spent millions and billions of dollars developing tremendous implants and systems for surgery. They decided that what we need is how to target implants. Can we plan and execute better implant guidance? So they developed robots, spending billions on robots and guidance systems. However, now we're in the same conundrum that we started with, where outcomes are not improving, and they've realized that bad plan, bad selection of patients leads to bad outcomes. That's the next generation. Where we have to go is Curvature. being able to provide an ecosystem that follows patients along their journey to better be able to intervene at critical steps along the process to find an optimal treatment course for them. What our system looks like is a tiered approach. We have two main products that we're using to assess the spine and better select surgery. CurveCapture is a video-based system that can be done via an iPhone or any mobile device that allows patients at home to take gait, posture, spinal mobility metrics at home, and doctors within 1 minute to get critical insights into their treatment of care. And then for patients that are surgical candidates or might need a higher resolution, we have a wearable device that stays with the patient for up to 2 weeks to assess and provide critical metrics to these patients. The CurveCapture system is a revolutionary spinal assessment tool that can go anywhere. Gait, posture, range of motion monitoring specific to the spine, and our models are already vastly superior to what's out there. On the left, you can see a competitor's model, and where they differentiate is they assume the spine is a linear element. They only track 2 spines along the way, and your spine is not a linear element, I'll tell you that. And that's where we can differentiate. We've got a proprietary data set to better be able to segment the spine and actually predict the way it's moving dynamically in space. And our competitor is currently using 10 cameras and a super powerful GPU. We can do that on the cloud using an iPhone. Our CurveCapture system has a low barrier to entry with the FDA. We're already in a 40-patient study at Hopkins with it, and we're going to have a proprietary data set and patents to protect this system. The CurveSense, this is the wearable device, the long-term higher resolution system. This builds on and uses the existing ecosystem for the CurveCapture to be able to calibrate and take in the data and provide the metrics to the doctors. This system goes home with patients and is worn for up to 48 hours. You can sleep with it, you can shower in it, no problem. And this is really where we get critical insights that are beyond just what we can capture with a classic video-based system. You'll be able to see here, we are creating a full digital twin of the spine. As I move, the model moves. We're able to render full motion in 6DoF for the determination of joint motions, which are critical to planning the dynamic treatment. When you fuse the spine, you're changing the dynamics, and you better well know how the spine is moving beforehand. We already have filed a patents on this and converted our PCT for this particular application. This is an FDA 510K exempt, and this provides a tremendous extra value to the system. Also, we've already negotiated out our IP from Johns Hopkins. I have 100% ownership of this, no royalty or licensing fees for that system. What we collect, we started without a device. We started from bare minimum. We started talking to 50 spine surgeons across the country, and we asked them, how can we make your treatment better for patients? We surveyed all of them, talked to them, and worked with them to understand their treatment paradigm and what they look for. They were begging for a quantitative assessment for these 5 metrics to help them better clarify treatment and know how patients are at home outside of their clinic. When they're in the clinic, they're either on the best behavior or the worst behavior, and they want a way to tease that out. These 5 metrics become even more powerful when they're combined. Oh, also, even though my Canva skills and my graphic design might look pretty good here, these are our real reports that we tested with clinicians. These aren't mock-ups, these are the real deal. When you combine these systems together, such as gait and pain logging, this is what our clinicians have told us they would interpret as mechanical back pain indication, which is a primary indication for fusion surgery to determine should or shouldn't that patient get spine surgery. If you look at posture and range of motion and you combine those together, we're able to derive what clinicians call spinal flexibility of the curve. So looking at individual motions of the spine, and that allows them to tell where to target, where to fuse, and what is optimal, especially in those big deformity surgeries. You don't have to take my word for it. Take the clinician's word for it, where they say this is going to be the future of spine care and an absolute game changer for them. We're already at a 40-patient study at Johns Hopkins with our system, validating both of our technologies in this for our technologies. We already have 5 terabytes of data already collected and are already improving this and using this to finalize our MVPs for both of the products. And I know this looks a little bit bulky here in this video, but I assure you, this is our device. And it is not bulky, it is easy, so good that you probably didn't even realize I was wearing it during this presentation. Our data is looking so good that we actually started to just go out here and sell this beforehand. So beta versions of our products as research tools, we are going out to sell. So in 2 weeks, we were able to get 4 LOIs to prove the value of our system even before FDA. And these are to spine surgeons who are adding them as secondary endpoints to their studies, and medical device companies who are in clinical trials that are planning to use our device and our system to track their patients at home and provide the critical metrics that they need to move forward. So these are the 4 contracts that we're moving forward for this, and these are within this year. So there's a little known company here. Anybody know Walmart? Walmart, as a case study for the value of the system, is a tremendous example for where spine care is going in the future. So Walmart decided that in 2019 that all of their employees had to go to centers of excellence to get their spine care. They literally flew the patient and one of their caretakers out with them, lodged them in these centers no matter where they were to be able to get assessed and to get surgery. They actually even paid these centers more money per surgery, over $2,000 more than the average, and at the end of the day, Walmart still ended up saving money. These COEs were able to assess and find the critical patients that needed surgery and better plan them, and that's how they saved money for the system. So you ask, where does this lead to the entire ecosystem? Doctors want to do more surgery. They want to find qualified patients to do surgery on. Payers want to reduce their costs where these surgeries that are unnecessary can cost up to $200,000 per procedure, and multiple interventions and lifelong payments for this are a huge burden to these systems. Hospitals are already aching about the reduction in spine surgery reimbursement, and that's where Walmart's extra money that they're putting on top of this really comes in. They want to make sure that they are becoming centers of excellence for these systems so that they don't lose out the revenue for that. And then device companies need to prove value across the whole system, which is my implant, my robot, my system that you've already spent money on and partnered with is actually providing the outcomes that you're looking for. Curvature provides an opportunity for the full value-based assessment of these surgeries, preoperative function connecting to post-operative outcomes. We assess before, during, and after treatment, which provides the highest resolution in spinal function and mobility tracking that's currently out there. The way we're planning to sell this device is on an enterprise level to hospital systems. We're charging a per-use fee on our device, $25 for the digital solution and $300 for the wearable device. The wearable device, as a device, has lower margins, but we're able to make up for that with the margins of the video-based system. And there is still a tremendous market when you look at the drug trials and all of the other research side of this system for Curve Research, which has an alternate revenue stream for us. We are spending a tremendous amount on this. Over $130 billion is spent in neck and back pain, and the orthopedic market continues to grow with this. But those are big numbers. Where you want to really focus is the bottom-up analysis of where we can go. So this is on the willingness to pay and the $300 and the $25 based on the number of spine surgeries that are currently happening. 1.62 million procedures every single year. From these, on what we believe that the percentage of patients that will be using CurveAssure and Curve Research, we project about a $500 million market, and that is only continuing to grow at 25% a year for the next 5 years. It is a really, really strong growth market that we are going to capture. And you ask probably, why is this growing so fast? Yet again, going back to these device companies, the implants, the robotic systems, the planning systems that they have already spent billions on, they need to find a way to improve them and to optimize and prove value in this system. And they are paying tremendous multiples for this, 5 to 20x revenues for multiples of these acquisition companies. And that's where Curvature actually has a leg up. These were defensive acquisitions. These were defensive acquisitions to prevent market share erosion, where Curvature actually provides the opportunity for offensive acquisition because it allows them to go upstream in the value chain and really understand those markets. We've already raised $380,000 in non-dilutive funding, and that's allowed us to get to where we are today. We are finishing our study at the end of this month and then opening a $1.5 million round for our pre-seed to be able to get both of our devices through FDA and to be able to facilitate the launch of Curve Research. The way that this is phased out, we have to, early on, this first phase is, we call this the scrappy phase. This is research sales. This is anybody that wants to do a study with this, selling early revenues before we get on the market before FDA. Phase 2, we call this the scrappy spine phase. So after we're on the market, after we got the clinical indication, but we haven't fully proved out the final value proposition to get insurers, everybody on board, but getting data, getting with KOLs, getting with all of these companies, self-pay companies, anybody that are early adopters in this system in phase 2, that is where we're going to start selling to. And then once we've proven that value, really shown ourselves in the market, we will switch from our direct sales force to a distributor model using existing spine and orthopedic reps to really boost our growth and continue to scale in phase 3. We project that we can hit $84 million of revenue by 2029 with about a 79% blended margin. We are not trying to be perfect in all of these categories. We go across a number of different competitive markets. We're not trying to be the best Fitbit or Apple Watch. We are trying to be the best spine-specific ecosystem to track these. So we cross wearable devices, patient reporting outcomes in these video-based systems, but our workflow is specifically designed for spine to enable doctors to better predict the care, and all of our models, all of our data are optimized for these patients. I'm Evan Haas, CEO of Curvature, and I've got 5 years of experience developing medical devices, and I realized that implants and spine are not the way to go, and that's why we decided to go with Curvature. I've been full-time on Curvature since the end of August, and have continued to grow our team and expand it. Anthony Foulahan is our CTO, and he has machine learning and the AI experience to make this happen. Dr. Nicholas Theodore is the director of the Neurosurgical Spine Center and our CMO, and he is actually the inventor of the Globus robot, which is the leading spine robot on the market, and he believes that this data is crucial for them to improve that robot. In addition, we've got amazing advisors around us. Mike is a spine sales rep that has grown multiple businesses over 10 years and understands these markets, how to sell in them, and he's already made us connections with his clinicians to be able to talk with them and talk to them about early partnerships. Amazing surgeons, amazing technical skills across our team to really make this happen. We're asking for $1.5 million in change for a convertible note, 20% discount, 8% interest, and $8 million pre-money valuation cap. This is to facilitate and go through FDA and to be able to launch the research tools. What $50,000 today would do would be allow us to hire the necessary people for the summer to launch Curve Research to our first contracts and make sure that those go smoothly in the next year. So I hope you invest in Curvature to make sure that every patient get the right intervention for their spine the first time with Curvature. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Do you want to start, Bobby?
Sure. Great presentation, Evan.
Thank you.
It's really, really nicely done. So with your regulatory process, do you have a predicate since you're going through a 510K pathway? And second, how in the world do you get somebody to pay you to do research? All the stuff I've ever done, I had to pay them to do research.
So first off on the FDA, so we'll do this in a phased approach. We're going to start with the digital solution as a general health and wellness and then switch over to an LDK product code. There's a predicate already on the market that we plan to follow that was approved in the last 6 months that use video-based assessment for posture and motion. And so we're going to do this as well. It is mainly just targeted at the scoliosis market, and we capture a much bigger swath and higher resolution. And then the CurveSense system is a 510K exempt pathway for the first indication of this. End goal, really, we're going to have to phase this out in working with our regulatory experts to be able to do this, where we want to become predictive. That's really where the end goal of this is, and that'll take a de novo eventually once we get the data to do so. And getting people to pay for it, we showed them the data, they loved it, they had existing studies that they want to do, this is their research aim, and they're willing to pay for it.
So you already have outcome data with this, or that 40 patient study, that's going to produce the first real outcome data showing that the indicating the patients that should get surgery, and then how that predicts how well they're going to do after surgery?
So our study is, this first study is really just a technical pilot to ensure that all of our measurements, everything are accurate. We also split our cohort into healthy patients and then spine surgery indicated patients, where some of that population is surgery fusion and then non-surgical alternatives. We aim to show our theses for our indicators, our digital biomarkers we're looking for with this system in an early stage in this study as well.
Sorry, can I follow up on that?
Yeah, you go.
So, given the design of your study and the data that you're collecting,
Yeah.
can you help me understand, sort of on the per patient basis, there's some revenue that a doctor who uses this, somehow you get paid for that.
Yeah.
Without outcome data, what's the likelihood that insurers reimburse this as opposed to this being sort of out of pocket? And I'm just kind of wondering, given the traction you have on the research side,
Yeah.
why is this a product that goes to doctors at all initially, as opposed to really being a research focus and using that to gather a lot more data?
Yeah, so I think the latter has a lot to do with the former of what you just asked there, which is we believe that long-term the biggest value is in being able to make sure that patients are optimized care, reducing unnecessary surgeries, making sure that where insurance providers are requiring 6 months of conservative treatment, spending money on PT, injections, all of this wasted cost, to be able to direct them to the optimal treatment with patient matching once we develop that data set to be able to do that. But agreed, this is a long-term goal, and that is really the long-term value proposition of CurveAssure. But that's why we're phasing this out and trying to get it in as many people's hands as possible in research with KOLs, in as many studies as we can, so that we can get those paid for and then continue on to collect those latter stage metrics.
I want to go down the data route. Who owns the data? Does the patient own their data? Does the surgeon own the data? Do you guys own the data? And then my second part, I think, goes to your theme. Why are you getting in the hardware business when the value is in the data? So help me understand that.
Yes, agreed. Value of this for data is, okay, so I'll answer the latter, which is the wearable device. This is an unmatched data set. This is what the video can do is only 30% of what our device can do. It's this, how are you waking up in the morning? How are you moving? Your musculoskeletal characteristics throughout the day, especially in fatigue and compensation. These are metrics that we believe that will lead to the best care for them. And so the device solves that data gap that we cannot get with the video-based assessment only. And then could you ask the first part of your question?
So who owns the data? So the data ownership, and because I want to then dig into the governance of it and things like that.
Definitely, yes. We've talked to many lawyers at these institutions that were going through data trusts at these hospitals. And so anonymized data seems to be fairly, is what is most attainable for us. So aggregated and anonymized, as long as we strip anything from the patient record from that, we're able to have that data. That's what a lot of the companies and stuff in this space are being able to access with that long term.
Go ahead, Tracy.
I wonder, in the post-surgical world, are you able to use this device and bill under RPM codes, for instance, to give physicians an extra source of revenue?
Yes, for sure. RPM, RTM, both of those, we're evaluating that currently for it. That's a race to the bottom, honestly, in our assessment of it, working with our regulatory experts. Honestly, it's getting slashed next year if you look at Medicare. We're going to be competing against people who are just putting Fitbits on people. We're so much more higher resolution than that. And so really competing in that market, sure, if doctors want to bill that initially to get some initial payment, it's good. But long term, we're going to create a strategy around reimbursement that's specific to us.
Okay. So can you fill us in generally on your target market, doctors, hospitals, PTs? What does the reimbursement scheme look like for them?
Yeah, so reimbursement, so the value, our reimbursement is our weakest point for this, and that's why we're around getting early data with researchers, getting early payment.
Self-pay? Is this mostly self-pay for
Yeah,
now?
mostly self-pay for now, but what we can do is provide, we're hoping it's a cost share with the institutions, the enterprise contracts that we contract with, which is doctors are spending only 20% of the patients that they see in their clinic are actually surgical candidates. So doctors are wasting a ton of time, surgeons that want to do surgery, and so optimizing their clinical evaluation, finding the right patients and the optimal flow for them, in addition to being able to prove out outcomes for them, that our patients coming in at this status leave the hospital at 6 months or at this, with that, the Walmart example, becoming centers of excellence for them, will drive a tremendous amount of revenues for them.
Rosa, do you have a question?
Yeah. Hello. Okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about the design, what kind of sensor you have in the device, and talk to me a little bit more about the manufacturing of it and the availability of that supply chain?
Nice. Yeah. Engineer on the panel. I love it. Yes. So for it's a video-based AI system for our video analysis. All of that gets plugged into our metrics. We use and adapt off-the-shelf models with our own proprietary data set to be able to further train those networks, to be able to find those spinal landmarks. And then for the wearable device, it's a lot of off-the-shelf sensing equipment optimized for long-term. We do a lot of creative things, and that's where a lot of our development is: battery reduction, long-term wear, size reduction, all of that's going into it. I'd love to fill you more in on the tech at a later time too.
Are you working with a design house to work through the like mechanical, electrical design, or are you doing it yourself?
I'm a mechanical engineer. I love this stuff. We've got amazing robotics PhDs on the team, amazing electrical engineers as well, and we're on our custom PCB number 7 right now, all of them completely manufactured and made by ourselves. We've got a place in China that we manufacture them right now. We've also manufactured them in Pennsylvania once, going back and forth between that as we continue to rapid prototype this.
Can I ask some financial questions?
Yeah.
So in your revenue model, it looks like you're basically assuming a percentage of the served addressable market. Can you help me understand how you drove revenue and how you just think about, given who you're selling to and the value proposition of selling to them?
Yeah.
Right. Like exactly how do you get to those numbers? Is it X number of doctors times, sort of Y sales cycle times, Z take rate? Like just help us understand that a little bit.
Yeah. So this side is a bit of a misnomer. This is just giving you perspective on how much money is in the market. You want to know this side.
So there's the prior slide that you had that had $87 million in 20. I don't know. Yeah, sorry. There was the revenue build.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
yeah.
this one.
Yeah.
$84 million in 2029. How does that happen?
Yeah, so that's the phased approach with this, working with our distributors, our sales reps. We also tag a lot of this growth rate to existing comparables. If you look at robotics adoption, everything like that, we assume will follow a very similar curve to the adoption of those products.
Yeah, I mean, I would want to see this linked up to actual buying behavior, right? Like if you're going to sell to a hospital, who makes that decision? How long do I have to talk to them, right, for them to make that decision?
Yeah.
Where do we fall given what the total sort of contract size is in what they do? Right, and actually sort of do a bottom-up build of we're going to target these 10 hospitals and we hope 2 of them take it, and that's how it's like. I think that sort of granularity will be helpful in understanding if this is feasible. Just a couple more financial questions, if I might. On page 9 of this document, you say a 15% sales commission. In your full model, you have a 35% sales commission. Which is it?
Well, it depends on the negotiated contracts and the types of sales reps that there are. So if you look at bracing, if you look at those in the operating room, they have different desires for this. And so it's between the two of them. That's probably my honest answer.
Okay. And then just a small modeling point.
Yeah.
You start paying taxes in the first year that you're profitable, but you don't actually have a net operating loss build. You'll have tax credits, so your net cash flow will be higher than
Man, I'd love for you to take a look at our full financial model after this. Okay, got it. Okay, but a point that I do want to make on this for adoption and what you're saying is we plan to convert these LOIs, these initial doctors that we're working to, in full contracts. These will prove this out. If you look at the spine space and adoption of other products, it is really pushed, especially our first adopted locations will be academic centers, which are heavily driven by the conferences and the KOL publications that are out there. They don't want to look like they're behind. And so taking these existing research, these publications, working with our KOLs that are doing these early studies to create our first contracts, that's how we're going to grow our first revenues in the growth of that system.
I think there's a ton of signal in this. I think you should be running at this market, not the one that you initially thought. Because the fact that people will sign these in such a short time, there's a lot of signal in that. So I would really sort of look at this as a research product, because you can build a data set and you can build validation in that market before coming to actual sort of looking to get insurers to pay you, because insurers are in the business of not paying.
So I have to go back to the data.
Yeah.
We're all dogged in our areas of expertise. So if I, as a consumer, get some data that tells me I don't need surgery,
Yeah.
and I don't have the surgery,
Yeah.
and something happens, or if I get a data signal that tells me I should have surgery and that my outcome is going to be ABC, and I don't achieve ABC, now the surgeon has a liability and the medical institution has a liability. So I really want to get my head around who has what data and the usage agreement for that data.
Yeah. So I think there's to parse this kind of apart, it sounds like there's a liability question and then a data question. Is that correct?
There's a little bit of an ownership question, because that sets the liability and that sets the governance rules. So depending who owns it, if it's my data as a consumer, I'm protected under HIPAA and other things. If it's the institutions that own it, then they have indemnity and liability insurance for that. If it's a surgeon, so depending who owns it, the liability shifts through the network.
Yeah. So I think for when you look at these at-home systems and the applications that are currently out there, it's when you sign your terms within the app that you really sign up for is, you have ownership as the patient if you're taking the video and the assessment at home, but then you create in that license, essentially a free license for eternity on the data that the company taking it can collect. Medical records for the wearable device and everything that tie back to the EMR and patient outcomes, those are going to be owned by the hospital for that system, and then anonymized results will be owned by us or licensed continuously to us.
Okay. Bobby? Go ahead.
Well, what is protecting your IP? What is protecting it from me going and designing some accelerometers and sticking it on your back and developing a similar technology?
So our IP is really structured around this long-term at-home and the calibration mechanism. The utility patent covers how we calibrate, how we adapt for patient body differences. And so a larger patient versus a skinny patient adapting, if you incorrectly put an accelerometer on, there was a huge gap in how do we calibrate and really accurately do long-term monitoring for it. That's where we cover. That's actually so the video-based system is what we developed to calibrate these sensors. This is the core of our IP, is to be able to place sensors on in any abstract orientation, be able to take a quick video in a number of different poses, tie that back with our computer vision algorithm and the recorded data set from our wearable, and then accurately realign those to make gross estimations over time. So our IP is strong in that. Long term, it's going to be our data moat and our execution and everything that comes out of this that's going to be the protection.
I just had one question on the financials too. It looked like from the spreadsheet that you were actually cash flow positive this year. Is that right?
Yeah, so from the sale of the cash flow positive. So this was projected revenues. This wasn't cash flows on this.
I know, but in your background sheet in one of your documents.
It probably came from a grant. We got a $140,000 grant from Johns Hopkins University for the Presidential Venture Fellowship, and so bringing in cash from that.
Okay. So it's just an anomaly right now because you'll be spending. Okay.
Yeah, no, we are raising money to be able to spend it for sure. Yep.
Tracy, did you have another question for
No,
me?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Great job. Great job, Ed.
Nice presentation.
Thank you.
Nicely done.
Appreciate it.
Okay, first presentation done. We're going to give the judges a couple of minutes to go ahead and deliberate before we pull up our next team. If there's any setup for our next team, they're welcome to do that at this time. Otherwise, I'll be back up here to introduce the next team in a couple of minutes. Okay, we're going to let the group in the back come on in real quick and get seated. And then we'll start our second presentation. Our second team to present this afternoon is from the University of Arkansas. Please welcome ProPika.
Hi, I'm Nim Kao, CEO of ProPika, and here with me today is Angel Treat, our Chief Technical Officer. And at ProPika, we leverage technology to create a cleaner, greener, and greater future. Normally, I'd start out by telling you about the problem and how we're going to solve it, but let me give you some context first. I started my career in the paper industry. I worked for International Paper and also Packaging Corporation of America. So we made paper from trees. Paper is primarily made from cellulose, almost 100% cellulose. And so I did this for a little while, and then I went on and started another company that made plastics from lignin. And lignin is the second most abundant natural polymer on the planet, second only to cellulose. And so I did this so we scaled up this technology, commercialized it, and brought some products to market. And because of this experience, people send me agricultural waste all the time. They send me this stuff, I don't know what it is sometimes, and they're like, hey, I got this stuff, can we make some money out of it? And so I was sent this box of agricultural waste, this happens to be hemp, a little over a year ago. And so the guy that sent it to me said, hey, can you do something with this? Is there any value there? And I just happened to be working with a world-renowned membrane expert at the time, Dr. Ranil Wickramasinghe. And so he had developed a novel approach to convert cellulose over to useful chemicals that could replace fossil fuels. And so this was pretty exciting to me, but his technology basically is a catalytic membrane. So a membrane is basically a really fine filter. And he had coated the membrane with a catalyst so he could really combine a couple steps into one. So he could do the reaction and then separate it all in one step. So anyways, I gave him a bag of this agricultural waste because I can't do anything with it. So he took it, he was excited about seeing it, and he said, I like it, I'm gonna run some experiments with it, with this new process. And so he came back within a week, and he had reached over a 97% yield of the expected theoretical yield from this feedstock. And so he was looking at sugars at the time for fermentation. So this was a pretty big deal to me because I was like, as an entrepreneur, I'm always excited about opportunities. Saw this as a huge opportunity, replacing fossil fuels. And not just financially being a big impact, but also being a sustainability huge impact that we could make. And so at that time we said, hey, let's start ProPika. Let's bring this to life and really commercialize it. As we evaluated the different applications and different markets that we could attack with this technology, one thing kept on popping up: aviation fuels.
And aviation fuels are one of the top 10 contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. Because of this, government goals and mandates are forcing fuel producers to switch to sustainable aviation fuels, which reduce these emissions by up to 94%. And while they are currently being produced today, we are at less than 2% of the expected 2030 demand. Biofuels are constrained by the lack of feedstock options for current technologies. Typically what's used are plant-based oils and simple sugars, but there's simply not enough of them. And this is what drives up the cost and why sustainable aviation fuels are 2 times more expensive than traditional aviation fuels. So what we're seeing are biofuel producers trying to increase capacity to meet the demand, but then you also have airlines like Southwest who are buying up all the supply that they can to mitigate the risk of supply disruptions. Our patented technology alleviates constraints by utilizing cellulose. And cellulose is abundant. It's in a lot of the things that we think are waste, like leaves, grass clippings, even recycled paper. So we take this agricultural waste that contains cellulose and we put it through our patented technology that converts it into building block chemicals that fuel producers can process into biofuels. And just to clarify, we are not making biofuels. We are optimizing the front end of the biofuel process. So let me walk you through what they do now. They take this agricultural waste, they have to cook it, then they have to grind it, then they have to break it down into its simple components like proteins and starches, and then they have to separate them out. The rest is processing and refining. We're not concerned with that. We're concerned with these top 4 steps, and this traditionally takes them 3 to 5 days, and we can do this in just 1. And we also eliminate the enzymes. For a 100 million gallon facility, they spend about $30 million annually just on these enzymes. We combine these 4 steps into 1 with our catalytic membrane. And just to show you how it works, this is our catalytic membrane, and the catalyst is coated on the membrane. And these are chains here that you see. And when it comes in contact with the catalyst, it cuts the bonds of these sugars that makes them smaller and allows them to pass through the membrane filter. Our target customers are biofuel producers, and we're starting with the smaller ones like ICM Biofuels. They have committed to piloting our technology, given a successful demonstration at a 50-liter scale. And at this facility, ag waste is already available. They can break down corn, but what they can't break down is the corn cob and the corn husk. Even looking at the corn kernel, you know that sliver that gets stuck in your teeth? They can't break that part down either. By implementing our technology, we can generate over $60 million in revenue just by putting it in there. And so we've tried this on different types of feedstocks like rice hulls and almond shells. And the standard is typically at about a 70% yield, but we're achieving up to 94% with our process. And so with such a big problem, you would expect there to be competitors. Our competitors are GF Biochemicals and Fibonal. The main differentiator here is that we offer multiple feedstock options, mainly because we can break down the cellulose. We can do this in a single step. We are more energy efficient given that we operate at lower temperatures and lower pressures. We're non-corrosive given that we don't use harsh acids. This not only prolongs the life of the equipment at the facility, but also ensures the safety of the people working on this equipment. We can all do it in less than 24 hours, but the reason why our competitors can is because they use these harsh acids and operate at higher temperatures and higher pressures. Our technology is covered by 3 patents owned by the University of Arkansas. We have the exclusive option to license for all fields of use, and the university can't license it to anyone else right now. Our royalties are negotiable, but what's standard for our technology is about 2 to 4%.
Our business model is based off of 2 revenue streams. initial equipment sales as well as service contracts. For initial equipment sales, this is necessary to implement our technology, and we estimate this at $5 to $10 million per facility depending on the size of the facility. For the service contracts, this is primarily for servicing the catalytic membranes themselves. We estimate this at $3 to $6 million per facility per year, again, depending on the size of the facility. And during our customer discovery interviews, what we found is that for our industry, in general, it's expected to be about 10% of the additional revenue that can be generated by implementing new technologies. And so for our technology, we expect that each facility can generate an additional $60 million in revenue. And for the equipment sales, this includes the engineering, the site preparation, the equipment, and also all the ancillary equipment such as pumps and control valves. We want to provide a true turnkey solution for our customers, so we make implementation and adoption easy for all of our customers. For the service contracts, again, this is mainly for the catalytic membranes. Over time, the catalyst may be consumed, and so we'll need to change out the membranes, or the membrane may be fouled up. And so if either of these two things happens, we'll change them out for a fresh membrane, and then they'll send the old one back to us where we can regenerate the catalyst and clean them off. This allows us to recycle these membranes indefinitely, which makes us also much more sustainable. When we looked at the market, we based this off of the 1 billion tons of agricultural waste that's being generated in the US annually. And to process this much material, we would need over 1,600 installations of our technology. And this amounts to a total addressable market of nearly $10 billion for our service contracts. For our serviceable addressable market, we looked at the 100 biofuel production facilities operating in the US today, and this came out to $600 million per year. And then for the serviceable obtainable market, this was the 10 facilities that are closest to us regionally, and this came out to $60 million per year. Based off these revenue streams, we expect to have our first customer by 2026, potentially ICM Biofuels, generating $6.5 million in revenue, and 8 customers by 2028 generating $80 million in revenue and $34 million in operating income. Based off these projections, we expect to reach break even towards the latter part of 2026. This gets us to cash flow positive much quicker than some of the other opportunities that you might be looking at today. And so, as we all know, cash flow positive is where we all want to get to make sure that we're a sustainable business entity. And then in order to achieve these objectives, here's what the timeline looks like. We're using non-dilutive funding to validate the technology and get through demonstration scale. We'll raise a $1 million seed investment round along with additional funding, grant funding for pilot scale, as well as our initial customer trials. We've already validated the technology at benchtop scale, and we're currently working on a 2-liter scale. With the 2-liter scale, what this allows us to do is actually test multiple membranes at the same time. And then from there, we'll go to the 50-liter demonstration scale, and we expect to be there by 2025. After that, we'll scale up to a 1.2 million gallon pilot plant facility that's available at ICM Biofuels. This allows us to really validate the larger scale equipment, make sure that we can test larger amounts of biomass, make sure that the kinetics still work properly, and make sure that everything works well together. And then that allows us to really scale up to that full 15 million or 30 million gallon commercial scale and make sure that it works properly too. And with any startup, we have risk. And so we've identified some of these risks. Our biggest risk is technical risk. If our technology doesn't scale, we don't have a product to sell. And so that's a huge risk for us. And to mitigate that risk, what we're doing is we're vetting out the technology with non-dilutive funding, and we're working with industry experts, including the inventors of the technology, to make sure that we can overcome any technical hurdles that we come across. And then logistical risk. Some of our stakeholders were concerned about the supply of membranes and agricultural waste. And so to mitigate the membrane risk, what we're doing is we're securing long-term supply agreements with membrane manufacturers to make sure we have plenty for all of our customers. And then for agricultural risk, we're mitigating this risk by working with customers that have agricultural waste on hand. That way they don't have to worry about the logistics of transporting the waste to their facility. Political risk. We mentioned mandates and regulations. We understand that if these mandates and regulations go away, demand will certainly be affected. And so to mitigate this risk, we know that as we scale up, we're also driving down costs. Our goal is to reach cost parity with traditional options. And so if we're at parity, all things being equal, most people are going to choose the sustainable option. The other thing that we're doing here is that our technology is a true platform technology. We're not pigeonholed into just biofuels. We can target other applications such as plastics, specialty chemicals, cosmetics. And so that also mitigates the risk. The other risk that we identified was execution risk. Low or slow market adoption can certainly put us into a cash crunch. This is a situation I had with my first startup. It's a very painful problem, and I do not want to go through that again. So to mitigate this risk, we are talking to our customers early on, making sure that we build that relationship with trust and have them build that confidence in ensuring that they know that the technology will work like it does whenever we implement it. And to really execute this strategy, the team includes myself, Angel, as well as Vanessa Gonzalez. I've got over 20 years of experience in industry operations, manufacturing, engineering, as well as commercialization. And I've raised over $3.2 million in venture capital and been awarded over $2 million in non-dilutive funding through the National Science Foundation's SBIR program. Angel has over 7 years of experience in research and engineering, including working for an internationally certified lab. And her full-time job right now is to develop and scale up this technology. Vanessa brings over 5 years of experience in waste management. She started a waste management company with her family, and so in her role, she is primarily customer-facing, and she's developing those relationships. So we're leveraging those skills to help build our relationships with our customers. Our team is complemented by an experienced board of advisors, including the inventors of the technology, Dr. Renil Kremesinger and Dr. Shanghong Chen. Renil has over 25 years of experience in membrane technologies. He's a world-renowned expert, and he is routinely called upon to speak at international conferences on this topic. Dr. Chen has over 20 years of experience in biomass conversion. She's also well-respected within her field. Joel Fontenot is a seasoned venture capitalist, and he specializes in early-stage startup. He's already committed to leading and funding at least half of that seed round that I mentioned earlier. Also, he's the one that sent me that hemp sample. And then Dale Mitchell has 30 years of industrial experience, including over 10 years as a plant manager. With his current company, Advanced Mill Solutions, they specialize in implementing large-scale projects at paper mills and biorefineries. And he's already told us that he's looking for opportunities to valorize cellulose and lignin, and he's got $20 to $30 million to deploy. Going back to that seed investment, just to reiterate, it's going towards pilot scale in our initial customer trials. We've already got $500,000 committed. We've got access to a 1.2 million gallon pilot facility. And then also with our relationship with ICM, we have access to a third of the global ethanol production facilities. And so that's over 8 billion gallons of ethanol production. They supply equipment to all these producers, so this gives us a significant advantage in reaching out to these customers. And so in terms of exit, our most likely exit is through acquisition. And we looked at publicly available data as well as pure data to determine our valuation exit. And we expect it will be at 5 times EBITDA, which is $171 million. This is a significant return for our early investors. It also puts us under the umbrella of a larger company, which allows us to grow and expand even faster. So here at ProPika, we have the right technology with the right people at the right time to create a cleaner, greener, and greater future. Thank you.
Congratulations. You've taken one of the absolute worst ways to make energy and made it better. So that's good. So one question I had for you, I guess the first question is, the very first line of your business plan says that you're an LLC in structure. Why would you choose a structure that's not favorable to investors at early stage?
That's a great question. So it's easy for us to establish an LLC in Arkansas. We can get that flow through tax advantage early on. But we do expect that when we take on venture capital, we will convert to a Delaware-based C Corp.
Great. One thing, I think what you really have here is a reactor in terms of your technology that you're gonna put in someone else's plant. And I think I understand that you're not actually making the reactor, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so why not just turn this into a licensing business and use someone else that would take that all the way?
Yeah, so Tracy, I think that you make a great point. I think early on, we want to make sure that we're in control of implementing these first installations, make sure the quality control is there. We're working with the manufacturers to produce the systems, and we're using off-the-shelf systems, but we're modifying for our application. And so by doing that, we control all the quality standards, and we want to make sure that, especially for our first customers, that everything works exactly like we should. Long term, we're going to do exactly what you're saying. We're going to end up licensing to someone else.
Great.
Nev and Angel, this was a great presentation. Thank you. I just have a couple of questions, but one in particular. Does this change the workflow of the facility doing it? Will you run these in parallel with what they're currently doing, or will they have to do a big capital expense to retool their plant?
No, this is a bolt-on technology. When I was talking that they process the corn kernel and they can't get that exterior part, that's the corn fiber, that comes out as waste. So if we just bolt on the technology there, it can just run straight through our process. So we are just adding value, like more revenue for that waste.
And you said that you're trying to get long-term agreements for the membrane and the catalyst. Is that two different things there?
No. So we're establishing long-term contracts with the membrane suppliers. The novelty of our technology is really the application of the catalyst to the membrane. So we'll control that process.
And do the membranes have to get bigger as you go to scale, or is it the same size and you run them in parallel? How do you do that?
They run in parallel, so we can just expand.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. Sorry, I'm really short. But my question is around standards and the qualification process of the output from this process. What makes it usable, and what controls? What standards control the quality of that outcome?
Yeah, so in terms of the quality of the output for the customer, so since we're not going all the way to biofuels or whatever that end application is, what we qualify is actually that intermediate. And we can do that with independent labs as well as our own labs to make sure that we'll provide that analysis to the customer during the customer trials. And then as they validate that, we will work with them to make sure that they come up with the standards so that they can basically put that testing protocol into their system.
Yeah. My question actually has to, good presentation, really appreciate it. My question has to also goes back to the first question, which is you have here in your revenue build like a service contract revenue. I guess it's no longer fashionable to talk about razors and blades, but this sort of seems like that sort of business where I install something in your factory and then I sell you the blades over and over again. Why would you guys ever be doing a service contract as opposed to finding whoever already services their plant and says, here's another product to put in your bag, and you send us back the blades and we recondition them and send them to you, and you're just in the blade business?
Yeah, Chidozie, great point. Of course, this is a razor blade model. It is not that it's not fashionable to say that, but yes, it is a razor blade model. So we will provide that servicing, like you say. But
so can I, when you say service contract, it makes me think you're going to hire a bunch of bodies to go to these places and put things in, and I think that's a pretty low margin business very often, as opposed to letting somebody who's already in the service business for that just putting your product in their bag.
You're correct. And so let me qualify it just a little bit. We will provide the service of actually having someone boots on the ground to actually help exchange them out. But the bulk of that revenue is actually the processing of the membranes, them sending it back to us and us sending them fresh membranes. They don't have to use our people to install it, but we understand that some of the customers that we're servicing may want that, especially in the beginning, until they have their people trained up to do that.
What's the life cycle of a membrane?
Indefinite.
Yeah, that's a bad model. If we're in the membrane business and the membrane is indefinite, how do we make money if they last forever?
It's the catalyst. So the catalyst, the membrane itself with the catalyst on it, the catalyst will be consumed over time. And that's what we're doing, is we're regenerating that catalyst, and we're also cleaning up the membranes. So the membrane may last forever, but it still needs to be cleaned and regenerated from time to time. And that's the service that we're providing.
So let me understand the catalyst then, because I'm really confused. I've gone from, I thought you were a hardware company, to you're a membrane company, to you're a service company, to now I think you're a catalyst company that sells membranes that other people service into hardware that somebody else owns?
So so we sell the equipment to them, and then they will get the membranes, and then as the membranes are used up or consumed, they will need to be exchanged out for fresh membranes with fresh catalysts. And our service is really that exchange of the membranes, whether we actually physically do it with our own people or they're sending us back the membranes for regeneration or cleaning. That is the bulk service. That is the main business model that we're focusing on, is actually servicing that catalytic membrane to make sure that we get it back to them where they can use it again and the process remains efficient.
So what's the life cycle? How long does the catalyst last?
So
is it based on volume? Is it based on?
It depends on the facility and what they're running through it.
Okay.
Generally, it's going to be 3 to 6 months that we'll exchange these out. And so we'll exchange them out. Again, they'll send them back to us. We'll regenerate and we'll send them back into the field. They'll always have extra membranes on site so that there's no disruption to their actual process.
Okay.
I've got another question on your competitive slide, and I think there were two folks that you showed as competitors. Are these also the refiners, or?
Yeah. So the two companies that we mentioned are GF Biochemicals and Fibonal, and they make the intermediates that can also be used for biofuels, and so they are direct competitors of us.
Okay. I was wondering, could they also not use your reactor product or license it from you and be a customer?
That's a great point, Tracy. Are you
Well,
setting these up for us?
No. I'm just trying to imagine a world where if we all think it's good to burn carbohydrates to create energy, which let's just assume we get there at some point in time, like we did 300 years ago, there could be a world with your patent protection, and if this is the new standard to do it as cheaply as possible, lowest pressure, lowest temperature, all of these folks that create biofuels are going to be your customers.
Yes.
So.
And the funny thing about why you brought that up is Fibonal actually, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, they sent me a sample of their agricultural waste because their process is expensive, and so they need to make more value from the agricultural waste they're generating from their process. And so they're using a feedstock that's birch trees. And so they're debarking it, and they need to make more money from everything else that they're harvesting. And so they sent us a sample to say, hey, what else can you guys do it to help us become more profitable? So
Great.
Not only are they a competitor, but they're also a client.
That's great.
So you have 2 competitors today. How many people would be your competitors if they were still alive? And here's what I mean by that. In the sense that people have been talking about cellulosic biofuels for a while. My sense is we've probably gone through a couple of cycles of companies that have tried things and died.
Yeah.
Why did they die, and why won't that happen again?
I've been through those cycles. I was rooting for those companies too. So in the past, there's been companies like Renmatics, Sweetwater. There's been a lot of startups that have raised a lot of money that have tried to make cellulosic fuels. Very challenging process. This is not something that's easy, so you're perfectly right, Chidozie. But what's different this time is most of those processes depended on enzymes. Enzymes are incredibly inefficient at breaking down cellulose. It was taking 3 to 5 days. That is the main reason why those processes never got commercialized. And on top of that, the enzymes were coming from companies like Novozyme, DuPont, and I worked with those companies. It was incredibly difficult to work with them because I was trying to help them generate more value, again, from their waste streams. But what they would do is they would scale up their facilities, and then they say, hey, we got some other stuff we can work with maybe. What can you do with it? And they would make you jump through all sorts of hoops just to work with them, because they had this proprietary enzyme, and so there are highly specialized enzymes for each process. And because of these highly specialized processes, once they got one scaled up, it was hard to go from that and to repeat it at another place because you had different feedstocks. You had to tune it specifically for every feedstock. So you had to develop a special enzyme strain for each one. We don't have to do that. Ours, our chemical-based catalyst, mimics these enzymes much faster. 1 day versus 5, and then also they don't die like those enzymes do. And so that's why it cost them so much, because they had to use up enzymes, and at the end of the process, they had to get more enzymes and grow some more.
Do you have composition of matter on the chemical catalyst, and to what extent have you validated that single catalyst for a variety of feedstocks actually results in product that's within tolerances for your customers, right? Because it's an interesting claim that the catalyst does that, but until you validate it at scale, how do you get people to believe you?
Yeah, so data, we need more data, right? We tested multiple feedstock options already. It does work. We do need to tune the process for each one, but not in the same way that we don't have to do a special catalyst for each feedstock. But what we're doing right now is as we get feedstock options in, we're evaluating them, we're tuning the process, and so we know that at a benchtop scale we can do this. The proof is still in the pudding. We have to scale it up. Again, that's why I mentioned that's our biggest risk, is make sure that we scale.
Could you give us a better idea of what tuning the process looks like if you're not redesigning the catalyst?
Sure. We're working with pHs, temperatures, pressures, and then the amount of time within the reactor.
So the flow through it is gravity, or is it pressure flow through your device?
So it'll be pumped in.
And you said it run parallel instead of in sequence, but you still get a high quality yield.
Yeah.
And it's pure enough to be used.
Yep.
Just the way it is.
Yep.
in the aircrafts.
Yep. Excellent point, Bobby. It's a drop-in option, and so we replace the fossil fuel-based intermediate with a drop-in option. So it's exactly the same thing, and then the system is modular, which is nice because as you scale up, we can put more and more in parallel, and so it's not in series.
Have you actually put it? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Have you actually put it in a motor to see if it will cause it to work?
Well,
have you put the end product in an engine? I guess.
Well, we could, but again, we don't actually make the biofuel, so we make the intermediate.
Okay.
But we're working with those people, and if they gave us a sample of fuel from their process, we would test it. I'd put it in my car.
Have you gone directly to the people that have the livestock feed?
Yeah, we're not working that way. It's a little too much to worry about the logistics of getting that waste to the facilities. It's easier to be with facilities that already have that waste there. So we are not focusing on that.
And then what about like the recycling companies, the paper, cardboard,
Yeah.
cities, municipalities?
Yeah. So that's an option. But for us, we want to initially focus on the people specifically that have already generated the byproduct, the waste, that have it on site already, so that it makes it much easier for implement our technology. We are looking at the people that are gathering the recycled papers, municipalities, because they are centralizing it, which makes it a lot easier for us. But we want to make sure we get the technology implemented first. And so, for example, like if we get it implemented outside of Kansas City, we could work with the city of Kansas City to transport their recycled papers to that facility. Mm-hmm. But the city of Kansas City is not going to build out a plant just to process their paper. And so we want to work with the people that have it already, and then get them to work with the cities to transport more as they need it.
Okay. Rosa, any questions? Everybody good? We're all good? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take another 5 or so minute break while our judges get their notes down, and then we'll be back up with the next team.
Take a longer break because this is the extra long time.
Oh, I missed that one.
We're ahead of schedules.
I mistakenly said too short of a time. So we actually have one longer break set up here for bow break or little snacks. So take a little bit of time, come back here at 2:40, and we'll get going with the next team. Thank you.
understand the highway. I have no time to wait. The city central, still have to run, no time for breaks. The most designated place, no matter what it takes. I'm coming home, I'm on my way to you. Don't leave me at the door, don't keep me waiting till. It ain't my fault that I feel this way, 'cause I know that, 'cause I know I'm in love with you. I'm getting any closer, further away. Mission's made to be completed. I can find some sort of way. I'm coming home, I'm on my way to you. Don't leave me at the door, don't keep me waiting too. It ain't my fault that I feel this way, 'cause I know that, 'cause I know that. I'm coming home, I'm on my way to you. Don't leave me at the door, don't keep me waiting too. It ain't my fault that I feel this way, 'cause I know that, 'cause I know I'm in love with you. Coming home, I'm on my way to you. Don't leave me at the door, don't keep me waiting too. It ain't my fault that I feel this way, 'cause I know that, 'cause I know I'm in love with you.
You get a lot of love from out of town. Body's lonely when you're not around. Catching waves by the poolside. Getting dizzy off these Mai Tais. Got me faded, got me drinking, plotting and I'm scheming, floating like I'm dreaming. LA sun is beaming. Toothbrush in the bathroom, saying you'll be back soon. Soaking in the moment, your message never opens. Love ain't supposed to be so greedy. Did you ever try to please me? Please me. Loving you should be easy, easy. 'Cause you It's that time again. What can I do? I screwed up again. I know I haven't been there lately. You don't have to say anything at all. I know sometimes it drives you crazy, but baby, you can change me. You can change me. You can change me. You can change me. Rain falls down on bed. It's that time again. It's that time again. What can I do? I screwed up again. I know I haven't been there lately. You don't have to say anything at all. I know sometimes it drives you crazy, but baby, baby, you can change me. No, no, baby, you cannot change me. No, no. I know sometimes it drives you crazy, but baby, you can change me.
Okay. Welcome back. I told you 2:40. Hope you all enjoyed that break. We're not giving you another one. We're going to start rolling through the other teams now. First to the stage is RHM Innovations from the University of Rochester.
Can we just start whenever? Okay. Hello, we are RHM Innovations, and we are a durable medical equipment company that manufactures assistive shower devices that reduce the strain on care staff and improve the overall quality of care for residents at residential care facilities. I'm Dr. Courtney Burris, co-founder and CEO. I recently graduated with my PhD in Industrial and Systems Engineering and am now faculty at the School of Management at the University at Buffalo. I'm joined by my co-founder, Brandon Burris, who's the CFO. He is currently a PhD candidate in biochemistry and molecular biology at the University of Rochester Medical Center, and he will be defending next month. We are both experts in research and development with extensive experience in sales and operations. The inspiration for our first product came from experiences that I had as a caregiver taking care of my dad, Robert. 4 years ago, his health declined and he lost his ability to bathe independently. I was the one who assisted him during the bathing process. It was exhausting for me and it was dehumanizing for him, but millions of people experience struggles with bathing every single day. In the United States, over 100 million people are elderly and disabled. Of these, 42 million receive care with their activities of daily living, such as bathing. And over 7 million people receive their care from residential care facilities where they are dependent upon staff to bathe. And the number of people seeking care is projected to grow by 65% in the next 20 years. Meanwhile, in the residential care industry, they've lost 15% of their staff, which is worse than in any other healthcare sector. And the care staff that remain are overburdened, sometimes caring for 20 or more residents in a single shift. And they're overworked, constantly being asked to work overtime or to cover shifts. And the caregiving profession is exhausting both physically and emotionally. Bathing is the most difficult and dangerous task to assist with, and through extensive customer discovery, we found that care staff are really anxious that they are going to sustain injuries on the job, and administration are worried about burnout amongst their already overworked staff. Janet, a CNA at Mosaic, which is a network of residential care facilities in upstate New York, said that she has strained her back while bathing someone and is worried that she is going to sustain a more serious injury. Facilities lose money when they either have to hire temporary staff or train new caregivers when they lose staff due to burnout. The bathing process takes about an hour and there are 6 steps. The most time-consuming and dangerous aspects for the care staff come in steps 3 and 6. During the shower, an aide will use a removable shower head to bathe a resident, which is oftentimes dropped, spraying water all over the bathroom and soaking the caregiver in the process. Not only is the resident left wet and exposed to the cold air, but this also makes a really slippery and a dangerous environment. In fact, 70% of injuries that happen to care staff happen when they're assisting in the bathroom. Many of the care staff that we've talked to have said that when they bathe someone, they essentially take a bath with them. So after the showering process is done, they have to clean up both the bathroom and themselves. There is a critical need for products to reduce the strain on care staff during the bathing process. This is our solution, the aiding arm. It is an assistive shower system that provides total control over the flow of water. No one ever has to hold a shower head again. So an aide can take a standard removable shower head and clip it into the device. It can move forwards and backwards and side to side. And then they have 2 hands with which to bathe the resident, which adds an extra layer of safety. It is also height adjustable and features locking wheels so that it can move between shower rooms. Thank you, Brendan. If anybody would like to try this, you can see us at the expo. The aiding arm is already in use. This is Scott. He's 63 and he recently had hip surgery. He is currently unable to stand while showering and he requires the use of a nurse, which is Lori. As you can see here, Lori uses both of her hands to bathe Scott, and Scott stays in the flow of water for the entire duration of the shower. Additionally, there was no water sprayed outside of the shower, which significantly reduces cleanup time. Returning to the bathing process, we focus on reducing shower and cleanup time. The aiding arm can save 10 minutes per shower, which means that just one aiding arm can cut shower time by 485 hours a year, which equates to $12,000 in savings for a facility just in staff time. This plot demonstrates how the savings in the first year can scale with the size of a facility. So we've plotted 4 of our facility partners on this graph, and you can take Loretto, for example. Loretto is a network of facilities in Syracuse, New York, and they serve about 1,000 residents for whom the aiding arm would be suitable. If they wanted to have enough aiding arms to be able to care for all of their residents, that would be 36 units. This would equate to a savings of $350,000 for Loretto and over $100,000 in revenue for us. And this doesn't even factor into account other KPIs, such as the reduction in the spread of disease, the reduction in injuries to both the care staff and the care receiver, and improved job satisfaction, which reduces the rate of burnout. Here you can see how our revenue and profit would scale if we were to make these sales to these facilities. So this is if they were to purchase enough to care for all of their residents. A sale to Loretto would be $108,000 in revenue and $72,000 in profit. In addition to the considerable cost savings, the aiding arm is the only shower system on the market that is targeted towards facilities that takes into account the caregiver and the care receiver. Facilities cater to a wide range of individuals, which means that their products need to be adaptable. So many of the products that are made for at-home use are not suitable within a facility environment, which makes the competitive landscape pretty scarce. The current state of the art is an aid using a removable shower head, but as we've discussed, this can create large messes, which are time-consuming to clean up and can create a dangerous environment. So the aiding arm is the only shower system on the market that improves the overall experience for both the caregiver and the care receiver while maintaining proper safety and sanitation.
Originally, we planned to break into the home care market. However, after extensive customer discovery and product testing, we found that residential care facilities have a lower barrier to entry. We can capitalize on larger purchase orders and a quicker route to insurance reimbursement. Eventually, we plan to leverage our existing facility relationships to expand into more independent levels of care. Mosaic, a state-funded network of group homes in upstate New York, is our first customer. Heather, the director of services, is our connection to the facility. Heather communicates with her staff what they need help with, and then she sources products and communicates purchasing needs to Alan, the CEO. Heather invited us in to demonstrate. Her staff tested our products, and then they made a purchase. It's important to note that although Alan is the payer, Heather is our champion, and that her care staff have veto power. So it's really important for us to be able to gain approval from every single level of decision maker to not only make the sale, but also retain the relationship for continued business. We've established partnerships with 4 of the largest networks of residential care facilities in upstate New York to test and adopt our products. They are, these 4 facilities, Loretto, Mosaic, The Friendly Home, and the Greenfields, have 44 combined facilities with over 750 total shower rooms. We're demonstrating throughout these facilities and taking orders for our products. So far, we have 2 LOIs, one for Loretto and one with Mosaic for 30 units of our aiding arm, which is 60% of our year 1 sales goal. To start, we're going right into facilities with the B2B model, selling directly to them. As we become a regional market leader, we plan to switch to an indirect distribution model where we can reach more of our customers in a shorter period of time. We're discussing partnering with Novum Medical Products, which is an ISO-certified medical product and distribution company in Buffalo, New York. Jason Manzel, the CEO, has expressed that a partnership with us could be mutually beneficial. For us, they can do in-house quality control on our products and sell through their existing distribution channels. For them, we can add our products to their distribution catalog, providing them extra streams of revenue. As we continue to capture a larger part of the market, we plan to partner with larger scale distributors like Cardinal Health to accelerate our national expansion. So we're currently executing our year 1 marketing and sales plan, going right into facilities, giving live demonstrations. We've already done 10, and we have more planned for this summer. Pictured here are 2 demonstrations at Cloverwood and Glenmere, the number 2 ranked facility in New York State, and 2 of the facilities in the Friendly Home Network. We've demonstrated for their administration, their care staff, and their residents, and received a lot of positive feedback, influencing the administration to move forward towards adopting our products. Richard Finn, the executive director, said, "We are the top facility, and it's innovations like these that keep us on top." So initial lead generation and demonstration commence what is currently a long sales cycle. We have some smaller products that have been and can be immediately purchased following initial demonstration. With the aiding arm, the care staff typically like to try it out first. Given their high stress and fast-paced environment, they need to make sure that whatever changes to their workflow or products that they develop are easy to implement and effective. And so then they'll make their initial sale of the aiding arm. Our customers are typically slow adopters, so they like to address their areas of highest need first. Then over time, they'll strategically purchase more aiding arms. So we've currently executed our year one marketing and sales plan this year, and we've made our first sale to Mosaic and are at various stages of the sales cycle with other facility networks. 2 days ago, we actually did a demonstration with the Circle of Life, which is a hospice care facility here in Bentonville. If we can capture just 5% of the shower rooms in these networks of facilities, we will exceed our first year sales goal. So a single unit of the aiding arm will cost $1,000 to manufacture, package, and ship via our manufacturing partner, Truska Designs. This will decrease as we produce at higher quantities. We're selling the aiding arm for a retail price of $3,000 per unit. So far, we've been able to reduce our cost of goods by over 60% by sourcing more off-the-shelf parts. Our total addressable market is made up of shower rooms in U.S. assisted living facilities, which is valued at $3 billion. Our serviceable available market is the total number of shower rooms in New York State assisted living facilities. We aim to capture 10% of the state market in our first 5 years of operation, which is 5,100 shower rooms. So we're going to capture these 5,100 shower rooms, and let me tell you how we're going to do it. Live demonstrations directly at facilities will help us reach our first year goal of 50 units sold. We will utilize the existing marketing platforms at facilities we sell to advertise the acquisition of our products. We will capitalize on the fear of missing out from competing facilities to generate demand for more demonstrations and sales in year 2. We plan to partner with a large-scale manufacturer and project 2.5 times year-over-year growth. This will allow us to capture our obtainable market and become a market leader in New York State by the end of year 5. We aim to acquire a distribution channel and partner with national staffing agencies as we prepare to expand into the national market. We've assembled an advisory board of aging business and design specialists. Dr. Victor Paquette is a human factor specialist at UB. Dr. Dan Phillips is an accessible technology specialist at RIT, and Dan Buckmaster is president and CEO of Truska Designs. They've overseen our design and manufacturing process, ensuring optimal functionality and seamless integration into caregiving processes. Dr. Bruce Troen is former director of the Aging Institute at UB and has ensured that we understand the evolving needs of our market and connected us with the top facilities across New York State. Marty Moore is the former chief nursing officer at Medline Industries and is connecting us with industry leaders to improve the sanitation landscape across residential care facilities. And lastly, John Seaman, a successful serial entrepreneur across various healthcare industries, has helped us develop the business model we're executing today. Their expertise, combined with our persistence, passion, and momentum, make us the ideal team to get the job done. So far, we raised $190,000 in non-dilutive funding by winning the biggest student pitch competitions in New York State, and we're planning on raising a $750,000 seed round later this year in Safe Notes. We filed 2 utility patents on protecting the functionality of our aiding arm models and 1 design patent on our ADA accessible shower tote. We've closed our first sale with Mosaic, generating $2,464 in revenue. We have 2 LOIs with Loretto and Mosaic for 30 units. And we also have 2 MOUs with the Friendly Home and the Greenfields, outlining a long-term testing partnership, evaluating our KPIs so we can qualify for insurance reimbursement. We've developed a plan that following this competition can ensure our continued growth. We've been invited to participate in the UB Cultivator Program, which is an accelerator committed to helping us reach profitability and helping us raise our seed round. Following my defense next month, I'm going full-time with RHM, and we plan to strategically expand our team. We've received recent funding from FuseHub to finish the development of the aiding arm and build an initial inventory to reduce our sales cycle. And we're hoping that the Heartland Challenge can provide us with the last piece of the puzzle, funding to allow us to bring our manufacturing in-house, further reducing our sales cycle and our cost of goods. So our ask for you is to award us the grand prize in this year's Heartland Challenge. We'll use the first $30,000 to purchase an MJF 3D printer and filament materials to make our own plastic parts. We'll use the remaining $20,000 to move our headquarters into the same building as our R&D and manufacturing partners. We also asked for an introduction to someone from the Walmart supply team. It is our long-term goal to get our products on the shelves at Walmart. This prize will have a huge positive impact on our growth. It will provide us with increased control over our supply chain, decrease our cost of goods, decrease the length of our sales cycle, ultimately allowing us to maximize our profits and accelerate our growth. Thank you for your time today. We are RHM Innovations. Let us help you
Empower your shower.
Do you want to go first?
I love this.
Thank you.
Empower the shower. So, I mean, both my parents were nurses' aides, so I have, this is a place where folks get hurt. So, understand that this is not a product that currently exists, but once you demonstrate that it exists, why your product as opposed to something else, right? Like, it just seems relatively straightforward to fabricate. So maybe talk a little bit about, sort of what may be unique about it or what may not be obvious, and then would also love to hear what the process is in terms of insurance reimbursement, and because that may also sort of factor into uniqueness or non-obviousness.
Okay, so I'll take the first part and then you can take the second part. So I think that what differentiates us really is that we live in this problem space. We would have been our own customers, and we have done just an immense amount of customer discovery. We stopped keeping track after 400 customer discovery interviews, but we've done so much testing with this. This is our third prototype that we count because some of them didn't work. And then we've gone into the facilities that we're partnered with to test. So we started with a product that was attached to the chair that would actually be controlled by the user. This was because we were coming from the caregiving space and the home care space. Then we went and tested this in Cloverwood. So this is Tom, he was testing it. And we found that the residents there were actually terrified of it. Even though they could operate it, the care staff loved it, the administration loved it, but the residents didn't want to use it because they're already petrified to get into a shower. They don't want to use what I say lovingly, termed the contraption. So we moved away from that. And we moved to something, it was still attached to the chair, but it would be operated by the caregiver. Then we went again and tested this. And we found that there were issues with it being attached to the chair, engineering-wise, but also in a facility. They already have chairs and they need something that's adaptable. So we said, okay, we'll go back, we'll remove it from the chair. And we have now a standalone device. So, and then this is in another facility. So we've done a ton of customer testing, and with that, we found areas of improvement all the way around. So it looks simple, but it's made out of really high-grade materials that are not going to break down with almost constant use in a wet and corrosive environment. So there are two aspects of safety in every single, what we call a fail point. So here, it locks, so this isn't gonna fall off. There's a strap here, so this won't fall off. There's a hose, so that's not gonna hit the person. And then it's height adjustable with a safety donut, so that even if somebody in this environment accidentally, can show you, lets it go, it's not gonna go anywhere. The bottom has locks and you can fill it with water, so it's not gonna tip over. Because of all this testing, we found every place where this could either be improved or where it could fail, and we moved to prevent that. So I think that closeness to our customers is really our competitive differentiation. And then in terms of insurance reimbursement, thank you. Where is that slide, Brennan?
While you're going to that slide, can I just say it's always hardest to be the first to invent something. It's really easy to steal somebody's idea and change it just a little bit now that you've done all this great work. So when you finish with reimbursement, I want to go back to how are you going to keep the competitive advantage?
So first I want to describe what a piece of DME is. So it's like Courtney said, it's expected to last 3 years, and it can be covered by insurance if it's been able to use for a medical reason. So basically there's 3 routes that we can go for insurance reimbursement. We can conduct a study, the purpose of the MOUs is to conduct a study for KPIs and ROI for insurance reimbursement to get insurance reimbursement from individual payers, like private pay. Then there's geriatricians on staff at all these facilities that we've made relationships with, and we can get a certified medical note to get reimbursement from Medicare, Medicaid. And then eventually a long-term goal, we as a company can become a DME POS certified supplier so we can sell other things.
So what does DME mean, literally?
Durable medical equipment. Okay. And so durable medical equipment is typically class 1 medical devices, they need to be able to withstand consistent repeated use. Like this is going to be used 8 times a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year for 3 years. And so we have a 3-year guarantee. And for those facilities, like Courtney said, like larger ones like Loretto, they're saving $350,000 per year in just staff time. So over 3 years, they're saving $1 million by just saving 10 minutes per shower. And so that's kind of what's happening. And so there's like not really a whole lot of regulation to get to the market, but to get insurance reimbursement, we need to have traction. So it's a very unique part of developing in healthcare.
So does that become part of the competitive advantage is if you have this, you can actually keep other companies out?
Yes.
So there's that. I think there's a few pieces. We have filed 2 patents on this. And it really, the basic piece that it protects is the top track. So the water coming in from the top. If somebody else was going to do this, they'd have to come in from the front or the sides. And some things have tried that and they failed because it's not a comfortable shower. But then the other thing is our market is very interesting. So they're kind of stuck in the same time as the demographic that they're serving. You know, there are products like that seat cushion, we're a distributor for that. We don't make that. And you can find that on Amazon, $20. But we bring it into these facilities and they've never even thought to look for it because they're not looking up products. The way that they do their shopping is through catalogs, like printed catalogs. And so I think the other part of our competitive differentiation is that we are actually going in and making these lasting relationships and they know to come back to us. So I think that even if somebody were to make this, it would be hard for the customers to find them unless they're also going into those customers and doing the groundwork that way.
Sorry, just to follow up on the patent piece, could you talk about where you are in prosecution? Because I would imagine you may run into some obviousness challenges from your examiner, even on the top track and sort of piece about it. So maybe talk about that a little bit.
The last I heard from our patent attorney, we're supposed to hear back a final check in November. We did get a first check with them and there wasn't any issues with obviousness. So I do think so. I do think that it will go through and she is confident in that as well. But again, a patent is only as good as you can protect it. We do have a patent attorney that writes our patents and then we have a patent attorney that can do litigation, but then also with that, you're constrained by what you can pay to defend.
Your revenue, your revenue model is based on the number of showers in the facility, but this is mobile. So what's going to stop me from just saying, I'm going to just buy one of these for every caregiver, and that person can move it from shower to shower. So your revenue is cut by a percentage.
So that was actually our plan, was to have this so that it could be moved from shower to shower. It could work for home care if they wanted to take it with them. But our customers actually don't want that. So this is the first generation. The next generation is going to be one that goes into the shower and is permanently fixed there. And that was also based on customer discovery that we did. So in Loretto, in the Greenfields, and in Cloverwood, they all said this, independent of us bringing it up, that they wanted to have a permanent fixture that they could install into every single shower. And that's what we're working towards.
So it's a little bit big for home use. Are you thinking about modifying it for it can be used in the home?
Yeah, that's a great question. So home care is actually our biggest market, but it is decentralized, which is why we're going for facilities. This base is currently the biggest design issue that we have with this. And we've been trying to find something that's better without getting rid of the stability of it. But when we were at Circle of Life the other day, one of the people that we talked to was a care staff, and she came up with an absolutely brilliant idea, so I want to give her credit. And it was having a U base, sort of like a Hoyer lift, because then it can scoot in here. And then the goal for home care is to adapt, again, another version of this that could be folded up, something that's more portable, so that they could just strap it into a carrying case and go with them. So that is our overall plan.
Yeah.
I want to challenge your manufacturing strategy. I think in your use of funds, you plan on buying a 3D machine. It strikes me that none of your design is really, most of it should be commercial off-the-shelf products. So really, I struggled to connect those dots. Is it just for the initial Sales cycle, I would challenge the design to really be commercial off-the-shelf components because really that's the fastest way you're going to get to market.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
And $20,000 is a lot for a printing machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the MJF printer is not what you would normally think of when you think 3D printing. These are really solid parts. So most of this is off the shelf. We did a redesign so that we could have off the shelf parts to just streamline our manufacturing process. There are a couple of parts that are custom that don't exist elsewhere. So this cap up here is actually 2 pieces. This keeps it so that if somebody puts their weight down on this, it's not gonna snap off. And then this piece here is also 2 pieces that is custom for shower heads. And it also has some other functionality built into it. And then this end cap. So right now, one of the things that's holding up our sales cycle is having to have these prints made. We're not at a point yet where we can do a design for manufacturing because we're still changing some things, which is why 3D printing is preferred. And having our own 3D printer, we could produce these cheaper. I think it was, 40%, we could cut it by 40%, and then quicker. So these take 6 weeks for us to get. We could print those in a night. And that's like really holding up what we can do. And then as we move on to other products, because we're not a one-trick pony, our goal is to have an entire suite of products, we could do our own rapid manufacturing, which would cut the manufacturing cost and time substantially.
And then also to say, like, there's a really quick ROI with this. So, like, you know, we have LOIs for 30 units. I think the ROI was like 25 units would cover like the $50,000. So $30,000 would be like a really easy thing to make. That's 10 units that we would sell. Mm-hmm. So in terms of like, it's a lot cheaper to get a printer to be able to print those things. It'd be way faster. And then instead of making injection molded parts, which is a really huge upfront cost, and like Cord said, as we're changing the design, it doesn't make sense for us to do that right now.
Okay, if I invest in your company, how do I make money?
So essentially, we'd have an ROI over the course of 7 to 10 years. So we're if we capture our obtainable market of 5,100 sales, that's $15 million in revenue that we get over the course of that.
So you're planning to dividend it back to the investors as
We could do
opposed to
that.
selling the company?
I think what he was asking is what is our exit strategy?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a couple. We haven't really decided on one clear path, but there's a handful of them that we could take. We could take the licensing route and license with a company like Medline, Cardinal Health, Stryker, and we have connections to those companies and we know that path. We could sell our IP portfolio to a company like Moen or Kohler that does shower products, but they have no accessibility line. Or we could continue with this and keep it as a regional hub and then pay dividends back. We need to get a little bit more traction before we have a final answer for that.
On the sales side, do you plan on using national distributors that are already in all these facilities, or are you going to attack that yourself, or is it a hybrid?
So going back to it's a lot of slides back, but going back to our distribution strategy. So in order to like be attractive to a distributor, you need to have some market traction. So that's why like after our first couple of years, and we're already having those conversations with Noble Medical Products, like they just said, once you have like X number of sales, which was like in the couple hundreds, then we'll be happy to add it to our repertoire. But they're like kind of a regional facility. And then kind of to go back to this, so like our strategy hinges upon using networks of facilities. So we have individual facilities, but we're in these networks of facilities. And because we're partnered with so many of them, it would be really easy to kind of expand it faster. And so Mosaic, for example, is a chapter of the greater statewide institution of the ARC of Monroe, or the ARC of New York. So they span like every single county in New York, which is 36. And then we have connections to Elderwood and even larger facilities like Brookdale. And so our like path to market is going to be actually a lot faster than I think people realize, because once you get into one facility, it's easy to get into other ones. And so then once we have more traction, it'll be easier to go to Cardinal Health. So we've talked to people in their like supply acquisition department, and they basically said like same type of deal. When you have like more traction, come and talk to us. Also, they typically like to license a portfolio of products, so it just makes more sense to them to do that. And they have a national reach, and then that's kind of where we're thinking about going from there. So we have other plans after that, but you know, that's immediately what we'll do in our first 5 to 10 years.
So you mentioned growing the team. What are your next 2 or 3 hires, and why?
Okay, so currently I'm the CEO. But
Cook, bottle washer, head salesperson,
yeah.
product design. Yes.
I'm the head sales guy.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
But my expertise really lies in engineering and product development and like customer relation type stuff. So as we grow, there's really a need to bring on a CEO who actually has experience growing and building a company. So we would love to have funding to bring on a CEO who has experience. I would step back into a CTO role. So that would be one. Probably somebody to help with sales so that we can reach just more people in a quicker period of time. So those would be like the first 2 hires.
I think we're all good. Thank you.
Great job.
Do you guys want to try it?
Awesome. Thank you, RHM Innovations. Once again, 2 to 3 minutes for our judges to get their notes down. Don't leave anywhere, though. We'll start with the next company in a couple of minutes. All right, we're coming back. We're coming back online. Everyone's looking back towards me. Hello, television crowd. Quickly for the television crowd, we are running a little bit ahead of schedule right now, so plan on the next one. We're giving you a schedule. We're probably 5 or 10 minutes ahead of that, so just stick with us while we get to these last two teams. So, if you will, welcome to the stage from the University of Georgia, Thrift Ship.
Hello, can I do handshakes? Hi, thank you so much. Thank you for judging today. Thank you. All right. Testing, testing.
All right.
Am I working? I think we're good.
Hello, my name is Max Pinkney. I'm here with my partner, Valeria Brenner, and we are Thrift Ship. Over $3.3 billion is spent every year by the Instagram small business community. This is a collection of 12.5 million and growing accounts who specialize in selling through Instagram. $780 million of this revenue comes from a subset of these accounts known as thrifting accounts. They take items that they purchase from secondhand goods stores near them and sell them through their Instagram page. $261 million of this comes from a subset of 5% of these thrifting accounts who sell at least 5 products per week. Now, who are these thrifting accounts generally? They are usually women aged 18 to 34 who have started their own business on Instagram. They resell unique thrifted items that they find at their local Goodwill or Savers or other thrift stores, and they sell it through Instagram. Now, the way this process works is that they take a picture of the item they're selling, and customers can comment in order to purchase. Now, I want to say again, these people do not sell through a website. This is a process done entirely through DMs, and as you can imagine, because of that, it's a pretty creative checkout process. So right now, the way it works is that first, as a seller, I have to send my customer my payment information, whether that be my PayPal, my Zelle, my Venmo. Once I receive that payment, then they have to send me their shipping address. So all this is done through Instagram DMs. So as a customer, I have to enter my shipping information through an email or through a message. It's unformatted. And then as the seller, I have to take what's on my phone in my Instagram direct messages, go to my laptop and enter this address information in a shipping label website provider. As you can imagine, this is incredibly time consuming. On average, it takes about 2 hours for every 10 packages sold. Not only that, it's also incredibly error prone. As you can imagine, typing unformatted addresses into shipping forms is not the most efficient way to do this. So in comes Thrift Ship. We take a grueling 2-hour process and turn it into an easy 30 minutes. We are a shipping website that right now is made for small businesses on Instagram. So how do we work? First, we provide these Instagram small businesses with a customized shipping form. They can send this form to their customers through a link in direct messages and gives them an organized way for them to enter their shipping information. Later, once a customer submits this form, they can go to their Thrift Ship website and see exactly what orders they have. They can enter the weight for their items and select a rate that is cheaper than the rate you would get at USPS. That means it's not only faster and more efficient to ship with Thrift Ship, it's actually cheaper too. So our revenue streams right now are pretty straightforward. On purchases of 1 or 2 labels, we make 43 cents per label sold. And on bulk purchases of 3 or more labels, we make 30 cents on each label sold. What's really cool and my favorite part about this business is that we've gone this far with almost purely organic traction. Since March of 2021 when we started, we've gained over 1,800 signups, which is equated to 130,000 packages shipped with us, $850,000 worth of labels, and $50,000 in Thrift Ship revenue. This comes with a total of only $500 in marketing spend. Now, when comparing us to other competition, you can find other platforms like Pirate Ship that are free to use. However, we are the first and only shipping platform that is made for Instagram small businesses. So we're the only place where you can find nearly the same rates as you'll find at our competitors, but with the added time savings. Now, why are people selling through Instagram? Well, not only is it just very customizable, but it's free to use. It's an e-commerce platform that's not really an e-commerce platform. So they're not biting into your profits. And so for people who are doing this as a side gig and as a hobby, they don't want random platforms taking off money off the top. Now, what's also cool is that it's a great place for self-expression. Instagram users, sellers, what we found, is that they love expressing themselves creatively through their packaging and through their platform. And Instagram's a great platform to do that. And not only that, but due to the nature of it being a social media site, it's incredibly easy to build up your customer base to thousands of customers because, well, Instagram was made for discovering content. So hi, again, my name is Max Pinckney. I'm the technical co-founder and CTO of Thrift Ship. I graduated in December from Clemson University with a degree in computer engineering, and I've been working on Thrift Ship full-time ever since.
And then hello, my name is Valeria Brenner. I am the co-founder and CEO of Thrift Ship. I have over 5 years of experience in the Instagram e-commerce space. I actually was a thrifting account myself on Instagram, and so the pain point of shipping was something very personal and real to me. When talking to others in my community, I realized that they suffered from the same time problems that I had, and so I decided to try and make a solution for it, and that's how Thrift Ship came to be. Who are our advisors? We have Shay Taylor. He is a small business coach and senior consultant at JP Morgan & Chase. He is extremely well connected in the Atlanta startup ecosystem and has been of great help and resource to us in terms of connecting us with important resources and partners that we're looking to talk to. We recently were accepted into a Techstars accelerator, so we now have access to the entire Techstars network, as well as our personal team and program director in the Oakland cohort, which is ran by Neil Salas Griffin, a lecturer at Northwestern. Melissa Feemster is one of our advisors. She is a digital marketing consultant and affiliate marketing expert and has been crucial in helping us re-navigate and rebrand our content strategy to better reach the community that we're trying to serve. And Mark Munson is a creative director and startup guru and has been really great at helping pose those important questions of how can we grow and scale beyond just shipping and beyond just Instagram. So what's going on with Thrift Ship until the end of Q2? These next 2 months are going to look very crazy and pivotal for us as we're gearing up for some big changes. First, we're doing some updates. We're actually in the process of redoing our UI UX to increase our sign-up conversions. Then we're moving forward with a partnership. We're going to change our revenue model and decrease our prices through a partnership directly with USPS. From there, we're employing some aggressive marketing tactics as we're pushing some campaigns that reflect the way we've currently grown and the community that we work with. And finally, we're launching an initial CRM feature, which is an introduction to our premium subscription model, an additional revenue stream. So let's dig in a little bit. First things first is updates. I call this process fixing the leaky bucket. Over the past few weeks, we've been doing some heavy analysis, both quantitative and qualitative, to understand where and why the drop-off occurs from someone making an account to becoming a repeat customer. We discovered that a lot of this has to do with the fact that when you first make an account on mobile, and there is no onboarding on our mobile, it becomes a very panicky state for our customers or potential customers as they're thrown onto our platform with no guidance. That's why we're redesigning our UI UX to make a mobile-friendly onboarding and to make our platform as easy and as navigable as possible. One of my favorite quotes I heard from our customers is, "I can purchase a label in 4 clicks." I love how easy that is, and we want everyone to feel that way. Finally, we want to focus on retention before scaling. Why put so much money and effort into growing a bucket if it's leaky, right? Next up, a partnership. So we're going to change our model to become more competitive. First, we're lowering our cost of goods sold by going with a different shipping API integration. This means that we do not have any API call fees to account for, at least until we hit 120,000 shipments a year, in which case we're working on negotiating a way to also avoid API call fees beyond that. We're in talks with USPS right now to get access to some merchant level discounts, meaning that we will be directly price matching our top competitor, which is Pirate Ship. And finally, that'll introduce a new revenue model where we'll be earning a commission on every label sold rather than adding a margin on top, which once again adds to that pricing competitiveness that we're looking to go towards. So moving on to some aggressive marketing tactics, around 97% of our current customers come from word of mouth, meaning that they are recommended by other small businesses who enjoy using us. That's why we're launching some marketing tactics that reflect this, and that includes an ambassador program where any thrifting account who's an ambassador can help represent us on social media, a referral program where, anyone who enjoys using us can refer us to a friend if they enjoy shipping with us, and finally, we're beginning to experiment with ad campaigns to understand how we can better reach the market that we serve. So, let's talk about unlocking some additional revenue streams. So right now we are introducing a $3 a month customizable feature. It's an introduction to the tiered model that we're going into, where any small business can actually customize the font, logo, and branding of that shipping link they send to customers, because we found that legitimacy is actually an added value proposition that we offer to these small solo entrepreneurs. They're starting on ground zero and they're becoming a business for the first time, and so Instagram is a great starting space for that. And as they start to grow, they want to find more ways to legitimize. And the idea of Thrift Ship is that we want to start scaling with them as they start to grow from that first small business idea to then a fully functioning retail space or commerce system. So why are we doing this? It's no cost of goods sold. It's scalable, there's steady streams of income, and we can always expand onto it and add more tiers. Right now we're looking at a CRM tier where for $15 a month, you can unlock and get access to not just your own shipping data and metrics and analytics, but also the over 120,000 other data points that we've collected so far from shipping with all these small businesses. We can see what items they're sending, how much the weight is, what the average costs are, and how much they've sold it for, which gives us a lot of insights on how these small businesses can make better decisions. And so switching gears now, we started looking into the e-commerce space and seeing how it's been growing over the past few years. And we found that over $1.3 trillion was spent on social media commerce in 2023 alone. Over 106 million people in the United States shop on social media. And this includes apps like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and other gamified retail apps like Poshmark, Depop, Mercari, and Etsy. About 43% of our customers that we've spoken to also sell on other platforms. This presents itself with a huge opportunity for Thrift Ship because we've only been serving them on Instagram. And we have noticed time and time again, if someone begins selling on another platform on top of Instagram or moving off of Instagram, we've received this question more than once now of, where are you? I want to continue using you and being supported by you. We had a customer discovery interview, most notably with Distinct Threads, and she told us how she sells through Mercari, Poshmark, Instagram, and Depop, and spends hours every night trying to consolidate all of her information into a singular spreadsheet. What's selling where? Where do I need to take this down? Oh, I've uploaded this t-shirt to 2 different platforms, and there's a lot of confusion and panic and frustration that comes with that. That is why Thrift Ship is going to rebrand at the end of this quarter. We want to be an omni-channel retail management tool for small businesses. We want to help these Instagram small businesses expand and grow beyond just Instagram. And so the ultimate timeline is first we want to become first we want to dominate the space from the ground up on Instagram. Provide tools from start to finish, from that first small business that just started an Instagram account to that small business that's about to expand onto a website or maybe add another e-commerce channel like a Depop account or a retail like Poshmark account. Then we want to expand vertically. Now that we're servicing from top to bottom all these Instagram e-commerce spaces, how can we add functionality for them across these other platforms like TikTok, Mercari, Depop, and Poshmark? Finally, the ultimate goal is to become an omni-channel solution. We want to be the epicenter for omni-channel business operations for small businesses that started on Instagram and grew to be so much more. So the vision is we're validating this with the niche. We're starting with Instagram because no one else has touched this market before. All of the other omni-channel retail solutions offer solutions for many other platforms, but are not integrated with Instagram itself. Starting with this space presents an opportunity to start with a niche that no one's integrated yet with. Then we're going to scale nationwide. So just to give you a little plan of what we're planning to do on Instagram first is we want to help simplify the checkout process. We believe integrating with Instagram's API will allow us to create a chatbot where we can scrape data from comments, DMs, live sales, and help these small businesses consolidate all of the shipping information and order information that they've been doing manually up until this point. We want to simplify not just shipping, but also the entire checkout process through Instagram. Second, like I mentioned before, it's all about leveraging that data, building out a CRM tool to help businesses make informed decisions. And then finally, becoming that community center and community leader for all Instagram small businesses from small to large. And so we want to offer tools and support in growing and scaling them, and then teach them how they can expand to other platforms using our tools. So talking about the vertical expansion, we've been doing a little bit of customer discovery on this and are trying to dig in more, but it seems like Poshmark is the best place to start. It seems to be the logical next jump for a lot of these Instagram retailers, and from there, Depop and Mercari seem to be the second and third alternatives. That doesn't mean that we can't expand to other platforms. It's simply where we're beginning. And so that omni-channel solution will look a little bit more in detailed like this. We want to offer order management across all selling platforms. So if you upload one picture to our app, it'll upload into all your platforms. If it sells on Mercari, we're going to make sure to take it down on Instagram and Depop and Poshmark for you and mark it as sold. The second is the CRM and analytics. We want you to become an expert in your business by tracking trends, seeing how sales vary by every platform, and leveraging the data of the entire Instagram and small business community to understand how you can serve your customers better as a small business. And finally, staying true to what Thrift Ship originally started for is we want to make tedious tasks mindless. We want to have your bookkeeping and sales data consolidated. We still want to make shipping as easy and as quick as painless as possible. We've even started looking into leveraging AI in order to track and manage how much an item is estimated to weigh so that you don't even have to do the weighing process yourself anymore, helping shave off even more time and letting these small businesses flourish and have fun for doing what they love to do. So today we are asking for $500,000 for a 10% stake from a strategic investor. We're really looking for someone who is well known and educated in the e-commerce space and can help us scale strategically and properly in this marketplace. This will give us a runway until about July of 2024, where then we want to expand to grow our team even larger and have an additional round of investing. Our predicted growth in 2024 is 9x. Up until this point, we've just been doing small scale organic growth. Oh, yeah.
Time's expired.
All right. Well, Thrift Ship, that's the end.
So how many thrifters are there on Instagram?
So the 12.5 million number that we pulled is actually from 2019 from a CNET article. That number is expected to be much larger by this point, but it's been hard to keep track and manage of exactly what these metrics are, just because Instagram tends to measure and track who their official shop sellers are, but not so much who the unofficial ones are. Our estimates put them at around 15 million conservatively.
So do you have any of the large sellers as part of your business yet?
In terms of thrifting account, our top seller so far has spent over $43,000 in shipping with us in the past 2 years alone.
But not, okay.
I'm interested in margins. I was looking at your P&L for 2023. The COGS are huge. And so can you walk us through how that works and so we can understand what your real margin is?
Yeah, sure thing. So we currently, the way our checkout process works is when a small business purchases a shipping label from us, we ping an API and purchase those labels for that small business, and then they reimburse us almost. And so we make a 43-cent margin on top of each of these labels, but that's why the COGS seem to be so high. Because if we're selling a label for $5.43, if a label costs us $5, we're selling it for $5.43 to these small businesses.
Your original business plan had a $250,000 raise for 8%. So what's happened?
We've been pivoting a lot. And so that Techstars Accelerator today and yesterday, even the feedback from the judges, understanding how we can grow, how we can scale, digging into the customer discovery we've done. It's hard. You build a business, it becomes your baby, and you start looking for the things that you want to see. And now we've been kind of forced to start listening to things that our customers are saying that maybe we haven't been thinking of, which, for example, would be like they're selling on all these different platforms, not just Instagram. So startups pivot, and that's what we're doing.
All the other teams have done convertibles because they weren't sure how to value their company, but you've decided to put a valuation on your company. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so we've already been validated a little bit through previous revenue and projections, as well as with our Techstars investment. And so that's kind of why we decided to go that route, and we're also really looking for that strategic investor. Just making sure we have some real good guidance to scale and make the business what it needs to be, and not what a VC might want it to be.
So I just want to make sure I heard something right. You said the $500,000 would give you a runway through July 2024? Do you mean July 2025, or you're going to spend $500,000 over
Oh my
the next
God,
3
July
months?
2025. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, my bad. Yeah.
All right.
A year.
I was like, wait a second. I
More
thought it was
sense.
2023 for a second. I won't lie.
You know, post-pandemic, we're all not sure what year we're in. So I want to talk a little bit about the historical performance. From 2021 to 2023, customer acquisition went down each year, and you're projecting for 2024 that it'll get to 1,700. I can guess why you might think that based on some of the changes that you're going to make, but it'd be helpful for me to understand, where are you year to date on customer acquisition, and to get to that number, whether you need a meaningful acceleration in the back half of the year.
Yeah, as of today, we're at 1,857 customers, I believe. And so we're averaging still around like 50 or 60 customers every month in terms of acquisition. The reason it went down is I started this business my sophomore year in college. I went through an idea accelerator, I pitched the idea, I started building it and growing it, and then studies happened and I got stressed, and I won't lie to you, like, the business became a second concern to me. On multiple occasions, I tried to kill it and it wouldn't die. So here we are, and it's a sticky business. It's a good way to put it. Yeah. And now we're ready, I'm graduating, and I want to take this business to the next step. And so that's why it's gone down. It's just because it was operating organically. It was growing and dying and being and breathing on its own. And now we're gonna put some fire into it and let it flourish.
So 50 acquisitions a month, then over the last sort of, that would suggest that you've acquired 200-ish customers so far this year. So meaningful acceleration needs to happen to kind of hit these numbers. Can you help me understand, of the many, you have a lot of initiatives. You know, I'm curious if you have the people to do all the things that need to be done, and if you were going to prioritize whether it's, you know, expanding the functionality that people are getting, you know, with CRM and things like that, whether it's sort of multiple platforms, or whether it's just redesigning the UI UX. Like, what are really kind of your most important next steps to make sure you stay on track?
Yeah, so on the product side of things, it's definitely expanding that development team. That's where a lot of the $500,000 would go to, is getting people with experience working with the full stack and making these plugins. I think the product roadmap would be to do a little bit more securing of the Instagram market, so adding those chatbots we talked about, and even streamlining the process further. And then once we keep on capturing and making the process easier for Instagram sellers, now investing a lot more into development on like Poshmark. That would be our first external plugin, and then go from there.
And then to kind of backpack off of that UI UX redesign is coming out at the end of next month. So that's something that we're working on personally, because before we can begin to scale or grow into any of these markets, like we said, we want to fix the leaky bucket. We want to make sure that our conversions are good, our retention is high, and that we're understanding truly where our market lies, what's important to them, and what kind of user flow they enjoy. And the beauty of it is with Techstars, we get to spend the next few months really figuring out the nitty-gritty of what is that right next step. Right now we're thinking it is building out Instagram, but we might find out in 2 weeks from now that maybe we should go to Poshmark right away. And so we're doing a lot of customer discovery, and then starting on demo day, I think we'll have a much clearer idea, which is end of May, on where we're headed next.
So what's your churn rate? Because you keep bringing it up that customer retention is critical. So what's your churn rate today?
So I broke it down on a different slide, but every week we're taking in about 12 customers. Of those 12 customers, around 6 put in their purchase information, meaning they made it through onboarding. Around 2 of those make a first-time purchase, and 1 becomes a repeat customer. Our churn rate overall is, hold on, I have this in my head somewhere. 43% of our customers that sign up make that first purchase, and I believe 68 end up becoming a sticky repeat customer, and then they churn out over a span of around 8 to 9 months. And so we're trying to figure out where or why that drop-off happens, and understanding the market at a much more...
So you have 2 leaks, right? You've got your leak through your funnel of conversion, and then you've got your leak once you've got them. Do they come back and do it again? Isn't that part the nature of the Instagram marketplace, in that you're a student and you decide you're going to sell thrift online, and then life happens, you get busy and you stop selling for a while? So how do you differentiate the real Instagram committed seller versus the Instagram, I'm going to try this for a while, seller?
that's where those subscription tier, like the tiered subscription model comes in. I think it's a great way of measuring how committed a business is. If they're just shipping out items and that's all they care about, they're not looking at the metrics or looking to grow, that's all they're gonna do. If they wanna start becoming legitimate, they'll start paying that $5 a month to change and add little features into their shipping link to become more legitimate. If they wanna leverage those CRM data sets, they'll pay that $15 a month as well. And so it's a great way of dividing our customer segments into cohorts while also maximizing the revenue that we can get out of them.
I'm super confused by your unit economics, and here's why. So the revenue driver at this point is shipping labels, right? And
Correct.
you gave the example of we buy a shipping label for $5, we sell it for $5.43, right?
Mhm.
So you're talking about an 8% gross margin, and then from that 8%, right? You're supposed to, with the churn that you have, you're supposed to build a whole business. That seems really, really skinny.
So we actually have a lifetime value of our customers at $70. And so to our customer acquisition costs, it's actually fairly reasonable to say that we're looking pretty decent on that end. But that's why we're exploring adding these additional revenue streams, because we want to get past that thin margin on labels.
So Instagram is free for somebody to sell on, but Poshmark is not. Have you tested the customers on Poshmark to make sure they're willing to pay a little bit more because they're already having to pay something to sell their item?
We're working on validating that more. We've done a couple of customer discovery interviews, like Distinct Threads, who I was talking about. She sells on Poshmark, Mercari, Instagram, and Depop. And so she mentioned like just the hassle and confusion of trying to consolidate all of those sales with multiple platforms, which to her, we didn't pitch the idea of like, oh, would you buy this if we did that? It's like, let's listen to her problem. And she mentioned the amount of time and effort and how many active ways she's looking to solve that problem already. And so that kind of indicated to us that there is that likelihood there of people being willing to pay that premium.
Your exit strategy for an investor?
We actually, we're looking at some previous acquisitions, and so the one that really stood out to us, or Max, I guess you can tackle these.
Yeah, so pretty recently BigCommerce acquired a company called Feedonomics, which does similar things to what we're planning to do with our omni-channel selling for about $145 million. And so we've seen with Intuit acquisitions and Shopify acquisitions, big players in the e-commerce business are looking to acquire these tools that lower the entry barrier to selling online.
Does it really take 2 hours to transfer something from a DM to a label?
You'd be surprised. It's not just transferring a DM to a label. A lot of these are full-time students, full-time moms. They are also full-time 9-to-5 employees. So you just for a second close your eyes and imagine you're sitting there and there's a baby screaming in the background. You're looking through multiple messages. You've sent around 30 to 45 that week, trying to scroll up in the messages of each customer, find the address, type it out, and then you're checking back and forth, trying to figure out, okay, Sarah purchased this brown sweater. Who is Sarah? Her name is Unicorn Lover on Instagram, and you could not figure that out for the life of you. There's so many little nitty-gritty details that go into this process, and so simplifying it really has been a godsend for a lot of our customers. It's about letting them maximize the enjoyment of the small business they're running and not focus on the tedious parts of it.
So maybe not 2 hours, but not a good experience. Yeah.
How do you take it to not 30 minutes, but 60 seconds?
That's that AI leveraging tool piece we were talking about. It actually seems like a really exciting concept because everyone keeps bringing up, how are you going to leverage AI? How are you going to leverage AI? And then, I don't know, I sat with it for a second and I was like, well, wait a second. We literally have a product field in our form that these small businesses send to people. And so if you're typing in, oh, I just purchased some thrifted Lululemon shorts, size 12, we could use AI to scan that, go online, see, okay, well, shorts from Lululemon, they weigh an average of this. Why don't we round up 2 ounces? And so maybe you pay a little more for shipping, but you know for a fact it's going to be a steady rate. And a lot of these small businesses have their customers cover the shipping costs.
Let's look at your data. So what are you capturing? You're capturing vendor, you're capturing purchaser, address, value of the transaction on every single one of them?
We're capturing the Instagram handle, the product name, the to and from zip code, and then the product weight and dimensions. And so we can kind of see how far, where everything goes, and we can track what kind of products are trending.
And do you have time of day? and
We can see when it was submitted, when it was shipped out.
and then can you take a look at who the buyer was and correlate them to another seller?
We can also see how many Instagram handles pop up across, so we can see if there's an overlap. Oh, this kind of buyer really tends to enjoy these kinds of marketplaces. Here's the top items that they're tending to be selling.
Thanks.
You know, eBay has a lot of these features in there already built into their thing. Do you see them a competitor if you get big enough that they would just use all their software and try to do the same thing?
Well, I mean, right now, so they don't consider Instagram to be a big enough space for them to expand into, these multi-billion-dollar companies. And so our goal is to use Instagram as a wedge into e-commerce and become an alternative to those tools you might find on eBay, as well as an option if you are selling on eBay.
I have to say, it was the prettiest business plan that I've read in a really long time.
you.
Yeah. I don't think we have any more questions, so
All right.
thank you for your time.
Thank you
Great
so
job.
much.
so much.
Great job.
All right, that's 4 of our 5. One more team to come. Give us a couple minutes for the judges to get their notes down, and we'll be right back up.
Ladies on the floor, it's that time again. It's that time again. What can I do? I screwed up again. I know I haven't been there lately. You don't have to say anything at all. I know sometimes it drives you crazy, but baby, you can change me. 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 Rain falls down on me. It's that time again. It's that time again. What can I do? I screwed up again. I know I haven't been there lately. You don't have to say anything at all. I know sometimes it drives you crazy, but baby, oh. Baby, you can change me. No, baby, you cannot change me. No. I know sometimes it drives you crazy, but baby, you can change me. You can change me. You can change me. You can change me. Catching waves by the poolside. Getting dizzy off these Mai Tais. Got me faded, got me drinking, plotting and I'm scheming, floating like I'm dreaming. LA sun is beaming. Left your toothbrush in the bathroom, saying you'll be back soon. Soaking in the moment, your message never open. Love ain't supposed to be so greedy. Did you ever try to please me? Please me. Loving you should be easy. Cause you and I'm both made for two. What do we gotta lose? Shallow water tonight, swear it comes out of night.
Okay, first I want to appreciate you, the audience. You guys have sat here very patiently and listened attentively to each company. So thank you for being a part of this afternoon. This is our final company of the day, so please welcome from the University of Minnesota, Tilo.
Great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steven, Head of Product Development.
And I'm Morgan, the Head of Operations.
And we are the founders of Tilo, a company changing the status quo around assistive walking devices. Did you know that in 2018, the elderly population surpassed the child population for the first time in human history? And that in the US, we're set to hit this milestone within the next 15 years. What we're about to see is a dramatic rise in chronic illness and injuries from falls that strips millions of their independence and puts tremendous strain on our healthcare system. Soon we'll be collectively spending more time and money caring for our parents than our children. An issue that's given rise to a $1.1 trillion long-term care market and $46.1 billion assistive technology market. Despite this, in order to change the status quo, despite this, our products are, sorry, one second. Despite this, current mobility aids have canes that cause carpal tunnel, frames that use tennis balls, and chairs that drastically reduce a person's ability to walk. In order to change the status quo, our devices are focused on the walking frames category because they're the last assistive device used before an often permanent transition into a wheelchair. In order to solve for this, we're focused on three core issues of stability, posture, and reliance. Starting with stability, our device acts as a set of mobile parallel bars that centers the user within it, providing greater stability and preventing it from shooting out ahead of them. Additionally, without a seat impeding the motion of the legs, our device encourages more upright posture and a more natural gait. With activity tracking functionality, we're able to better inform rehabilitation and provide a more accurate picture of where someone's baseline is at. Our device is also versatile, giving users the maneuverability of a four-wheeled walker, the stability and control of a two-wheeled walker, and the seated mobility of a transport chair. Here we can see these features in action. Starting with that posture support and ability to take full stride lengths. Incredible maneuverability in tight spaces. And that ability to be pushed while seated. Now, what makes all of this possible are our proprietary omnidirectional wheels that have the same range of motion as caster wheels without getting in the way of users' feet. Our design is half the cost and weight of alternatives due to its injection moldable design and simplified assembly. Here's a video of our very first user test. This is actually my dad, who has multiple sclerosis and has been unable to walk with his four-wheeled walker ever since falling with it over 2 years ago. Our device was able to give him the stability and control of his two-wheeled walker while also allowing him to go out and about without dragging tennis balls across the floor. Now, the real goal for someone like my dad is to transition to a less assistive device over time. The issue is that physical therapists currently have no way of understanding where someone's independent mobility is really at. This is why we're embedding strain gauges directly into our frame, effectively turning our entire device into a weight scale. By measuring speed, distance, and weight, we can provide a more accurate picture of how reliant someone is on their device and get a real baseline of where they're at. Here's a look at our mobile app prototype. Here we're able to get a daily snapshot of someone's activity and chart this hour by hour in order to gain a visual understanding of where someone's at. We're also able to facilitate gait assessments, such as the 25-foot walk, and then chart trends and set goals over weeks, months, and even years. Now, the real goal at Tilo is to simplify the entire range of assistive devices. Compared to traditional canes, our Y canes offer wrist support that alleviates pain, increases stability, and improves a more upright posture. Compared to alternatives that were designed for skiers who push and amputees who lean onto their devices, our canes mirror the natural angle of the leg in order to encourage a more natural gait. We're also testing an electric drive frame that gives power chair functionality without sacrificing the user's ability to walk with their device. With electric motors, we're able to facilitate autonomous patient transport, as well as automatic e-stopping if a fall is detected, in order to make nursing homes and hospital systems safer and more efficient. As we scale our products and technology, our goal is to connect all of them into a central patient portal, where clinicians can monitor patients as they transition from one device to another, in order to better inform their rehabilitation programs. In order to get here, we're utilizing a building block approach, where our Y canes allow us to secure manufacturing partners and an early revenue stream that's crucial for the development of our rollator walker. And the development of our omnidirectional wheels and activity tracking technology builds that foundation for our electric drive frame that will introduce electric drive as well as automatic e-stopping capabilities.
So where are we today? Well, in the last few years, we've raised over $250,000 in non-dilutive funding, filed patents, garnered national press coverage, and made strategic partnerships across the country. Additionally, by developing entirely in-house, we've managed to cut development costs by more than 80%, allowing us to go from ideas to fully functional prototypes. We just wrapped up our Y cane's final user testing with partner physical therapy clinics and are currently finalizing contracts with our suppliers, manufacturers, and distributors. We will be officially launching the Y canes via our website this May, while we tour with the National MS Society as a sponsor of their Walk and Bike MS events. In the meantime, we have been selling our small batch production runs to early adopters. Here you can see a photo of me with our very first customer, Sandy, who has multiple sclerosis and first learned about our company about a year ago when we first met at a Walk MS event. With our Y canes, Sandy is optimistic she will be able to complete the 1 mile walk at this year's event for the very first time on her own, something that has been impossible with the current mobility options available to her. Tilo's Y canes retail at $249, representing an 86% gross profit margin. Now, unlike Tilo's other devices, canes are less likely to be purchased through traditional medical sales channels. So following our launch, we'll be doubling down on digital marketing and advertising techniques in order to promote sales via our website and later third-party retailers. Unlike the Y canes, we do still need to refine our omnidirectional wheels and weight reliance technology before commercializing the rollator walker. To secure the funding to do so, we are currently applying to 3 SBIR grants. The first will focus on the technical feasibility of the omnidirectional wheels, the second on the weight reliance technology, and third on conducting clinical trials and commercialization. Securing all 3 will bring in approximately $2.6 million of non-dilutive funding by 2026. To do this successfully, we have curated a team of experts, including former SBIR grant reviewers, health system leadership, clinical experts, and engineers. Now, this team perfectly complements Steven's background in industrial design, full stack development, and robotics, and my background in product management, finance, and the healthcare industry, in order to equip Tilo with the skills needed in order to commercialize our devices. Our 3 customer segments include physical therapists, caregivers, and mobility aid users. But since 76% of purchases are made by caregivers, they are our primary target market. Based on robust customer research, we were able to discover that a caregiver's ultimate goal is to find that perfect product between what a physical therapist recommends and what their loved one will actually use. By developing in direct collaboration with both physical therapists and mobility aid users, we are working to ensure that our devices are those golden mean products. Often an individual will have their very first touch point with a mobility aid at physical therapy. And since physical therapists typically have the greatest influence over a caregiver's final purchase decision, getting our device directly into clinics will be crucial to reaching our primary purchaser at the exact right moment, before they decide on a device to buy. Getting our devices into clinics will require proof that they improve patient outcomes. In order to show our devices' clinical advantages, we are currently on track to launch 3 pilot programs with our partner physical therapy clinics this summer, and clinical trials with the Minneapolis VA and Health Partners Neuroscience Center by mid-2025. Following these studies, we will aim to publish findings in medical journals in order to continue gaining credibility within the physical therapy industry. To supplement this strategy, we will also build brand recognition amongst caregivers via digital marketing techniques, such as Facebook and Google ads, radio and infomercials, as well as showcasing our device at trade show events. The Rollator will initially sell via Tilo's website, later expanding to third-party retailers, including medical supply stores and digital marketplaces. Tilo's Rollator will retail at $1,500 and come with standard fitness and mobility tracking capabilities. To generate recurring revenue, we will also offer users the ability to upgrade to Tilo Pro for $15 a month, enabling the ability to share data with up to 4 other devices. Now, this pricing is very in line with the high-end Rollator market, while providing unmatched value as the only device to incorporate a posterior frame, 2-in-1 functionality, and digital rehabilitation tools. With this strategy, Tilo expects to generate over $50 million in revenue over the course of the next 5 years. And as the medtech industry continues to thrive on mergers and acquisitions, we are strategically building a robust IP portfolio as we develop new products and technologies, so that when we are ready to sell, we will be a prime target for the multitude of medical giants headquartered in our own backyard of Minnesota, such as United Health Group, Best Buy Health, and Medtronic. Thank you, and at this time, we would love to open it up to any questions you all may have.
So first, I'd like to speak personally from me that I would prefer to be called an older adult than an elderly person, okay?
Sounds good.
You use them both in your business plan, but I prefer the, tell me how you do the scaling of this without an equity ask.
Sure. Yeah, so right now we have had a fully non-dilutive funding strategy. So we've raised over $250,000. This has allowed us to get the Y-Canes fully to commercialization. So we need no further funding at this moment in order to be revenue generating on that product. When we think about the Rollator Walker, in order to refine the omnidirectional wheels and the weight reliance technology, we're estimating needing around $600,000 in order to finish that development. That's partly because we have internal expertise in order to be able to do that already on the team. So with the SBIR grants, both phase 1 grants will bring in $300,000 each. So that gets us to the full development of the Rollator Walker. Once we've developed it, we are able to go direct to consumer right away. These are class 1 medical devices, which means they do not require any pre-approval by the FDA before commercialization. So once that development is done, really the only thing in the way at that point would be the manufacturing costs. That's where that phase 2 is going to come in. That phase 2 grant with the SBIR will bring in approximately $2 million to $2.2 million, and those funds can be used for manufacturing, marketing, and sales elements in order to commercialize the device. I will say, even though we do at the moment want to try and exhaust our options for non-dilutive, we are absolutely open to equity investments if the terms were correct and if the venture capitalists had the connections needed in order to scale and accelerate our technologies, especially for mass production.
Yeah, I understand about the manufacturing, but
Yeah.
if you're going to build inventory for medical supply houses and pharmacies or any place that sell it,
sure.
I'm not sure you can even get debt financing for something like that unless you already have receivables on the books.
Sure. So for the direct-to-consumer, I should have clarified, and I apologize for that. I think for the direct-to-consumer strategy, we can do a fully non-dilutive funding strategy with the elements that I've laid out. But you are absolutely correct. Once we start to think about selling to third-party retailers, once we think about selling to health systems, that is when I do believe that that venture capital funding would become necessary.
Can you discuss potential reimbursement for equipment like this?
Absolutely, yes. So both products, the Y-Canes and the Rollator Walker, are classified as DME under the CMS codes. That equates to a 20% reimbursement from the Centers of Medicaid and Medicare. Unfortunately, within the assistive walking category, they will only cover the most basic option available to individuals. What this means is that for any rollator walker that is on the market, it's about a $35 reimbursement that CMS will provide to consumers. Unfortunately, this is a challenge not only for us, but also our competitors. Something that we're doing to try and accelerate or have a competitive advantage in that area is use codes more typical for remote patient monitoring. So that's where our larger opportunity does exist from a reimbursement perspective. That said, at the moment, our number one strategy is actually to file and list with the FDA so that we give our consumers the ability to pay with their HSA and FSA dollars.
And what does that process look like in terms of timing?
In terms of listing and filing with FSA, it's actually incredibly easy. So we already started the process for the Y-Canes and should have a confirmation within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And we filed it last week. Yeah, so it's quite simple process, and it doesn't require any oversight by them to get the approval. It's really just sending in a form.
In testing, you talked about testing or doing some early adoption. Are you going to collect data on? Is it a possibility that this will reduce falls? I mean, that's one of your claims.
Mm-hmm.
Can you grab that data and compare it to at least historical data?
Yeah. So one thing that we're looking at is currently pediatrics use posterior gait trainers for children with cerebral palsy because they have been shown to increase posture and decrease falls for that population. The issue is that you can't scale those up very well with those caster wheels in front. If you do that for an adult, the device becomes too large. So that's where our Omni wheels come in. But because of that as well, there's not really any research that's been done to validate this for adults. So we really do hope to be the pioneers with that. In doing that research, gaining motion capture data to compare it to traditional walkers and see how it is affecting things like posture or stride length or O2 levels when they're breathing as well. So then as we do that through our clinical trials, especially through SBIR grant funding, that's another way we can build trust with physical therapists to get this solidified not only with their practice, but within academia and with those data insights to really validate that this is solving for those needs within posture and then that stability as well.
Could you just give us a little bit more detail on, well, I guess taking a step back, I was most excited about the rollator walker.
Sure.
And then sort of halfway through the presentation, I find out that it's not actually built yet. Right, you've built the Y-Cane, right, but the walker, there's still some development that needs to be done.
Sure.
That's fine. Can you help us understand what actually still needs to be developed, right? Because you sort of have the example with your father, but that's sort of not, it's hard for me to just tell by looking at it how far away you are from the final product is one. And then two, with respect to kind of the question of reimbursement and payment and all these things, I note that a number of your competitors that are selling higher end chairs are in Europe. Is the reimbursement or sort of commercial environment different in Europe? And if so, how would you think about being there as well or being there even earlier, right? Like if these systems pay for people to have the best chair, maybe that's actually a pretty good market for you.
It's an absolutely great question. I'm going to let Steven answer the first one, talking about where we're at with the rollator, and I'll come back to answer the second.
And can you do me a favor when you're talking about it? Is that 2 different models or one model in 2 positions?
This is one model in 2 positions, so seat up and seat down with that back support when the seat's up. But where we're at is we did start with the rollator walker. That was the first need we found and discovered. So we did make a fully functional prototype that we could test with physical therapists. We are still testing our newest models with the physical therapists in different configurations and really trying to figure out what exactly is working, what's not, hammering this out. But we're not ready for commercial development yet. There are some components to that where we do need very customized tooling. We got to ramp up for mass manufacturing. So that's why we did decide to pivot to those Y canes. They're a lot simpler to manufacture. We're actually doing it largely ourselves to fill that gap for the first few hundred orders, getting some revenue, getting some validation before we go out to manufacturers and say, here's what we're already selling, there's a need, and then wrapping up to full-scale production where we can use those manufacturers to get to our rollator as well as that revenue. But that is why we pivoted, so we can focus on the Y canes. But the rollator itself, we are just trying to figure out how to get those manufacturers to work with us first as a company, starting with those Y canes, which were an identified need as we were testing the rollator, because that huge gap between a single point cane and then something as supportive as a walker. So it was also an ask from the physical therapist as well.
So don't most seniors fall forward, right? They trip and they fall forward, right? It's usually a face plant, not a wobble back.
Yeah. And that is actually the insight that we discovered through personal experiences as well as physical therapists. We found that because you have these sets of 4 wheels, it's very equivalent to pushing a shopping cart. With all that forward momentum, if your posture is deteriorating, you get that hunched over posture. So a lot of momentum, a lot of weight is shifted there. We even see physical therapists putting 25-pound weights into the rollator baskets to make up for that shiftiness. So that's why we looked at the reverse frame, because they are still pushing it forward into them. They get locked in place, but their center of mass gets centered in the center. A lot of centers. But as long as they're holding onto those handlebars, it is a set of parallel bars. And when you can't push it in front of you like a shopping cart, that's where the safety really comes into play.
The other thing is you talk about seniors, but your examples are MS and cerebral palsy and things like that. So there's a connect and disconnect in this, and you talk about positive outcomes. Well, with seniors, our denouement is there is no outcome, right? We just get worse and worse and worse, and so no, we do.
So it's a
older
really
adult. Sorry, Bobby's sensitive.
Yeah, sorry, older adult. Yes,
Bobby's sensitive to his age. I'm not, right? Like,
so it's a very good insight. So
right.
our super user is kind of what we call them, is those chronic illness patients. So individuals who have MS, cerebral palsy, Parkinson's, et cetera. That's who we're developing the device for. But as we develop for an individual who is that super user, we're also seeing that they have incredible benefits for larger markets, such as the elderly.
The elderly have the deterioration of the upper body.
Correct.
I'm way too proficient at this, as you can see. And so I worry about, one of the reasons that, we've gone forward is particularly for women, our ability to lean. It does lead to posture problems and things like that, but the ability to stand straight as you're aging and to be able to hold yourself up with your shoulders and your upper body, that's one of our fastest deterioration points. So
Exactly. Yeah, and
I think you're better off with the cerebral, with the people who are the MSs, the ones who are trying to improve. I think you'll see design challenges with deterioration over time.
Gotcha.
Can you answer the Europe
Yes,
question?
I was just going to come back to it. Yes. Okay, so there are really great market opportunities in Europe, specifically looking into the Nordic countries. So thinking Finland, Sweden, Denmark. They have just this really new way of thinking about mobility in the way that I think the United States has not caught up to. So the way that we are tackling those markets is we filed a PCT application along with our utility patents in the US. This gives us 12 months in order to decide which countries we specifically want to file internationally. So what that does is it protects our innovation in 154 countries who are all part of this cooperation treaty. And where we will be doubling down on filing are in some of those countries, like the Nordic areas of the region. That can allow us to tap into those markets and get those better reimbursement opportunities. And we have very strategic partners in Sweden for that.
How much does it weigh? Because the one my dad used to push, to put it in the trunk of the car was a real pain.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah, right now it weighs 18 pounds. By the time we make it to mass manufacture, it'll be around 22. That's pretty in line with most walkers on the market right now, but where we do come into play is you're not taking 2 devices at once. So if you have a loved one that needs to sit down and be pushed in like a wheelchair, typically what you see is people loading up their trunks with both devices, a rollator and a wheelchair. So looking at that, we make it not only more convenient, they don't need to carry 2 to get in the car, but they also don't need to carry two when they're out and about. So that's where that weight justification comes in. But even there, we are still in line with what's standard at the moment.
Tell me a little bit about your initial manufacturing strategy and when you will have that inflection point where you'll be ready to sign off on your injection molding tools that are going to be $250,000.
Yeah.
When are you ready for that?
Yeah, exactly.
And I can take this and maybe pass it off to Morgan for the latter half. But right now, what we had to do is figure out how to fill that gap between 3D printed parts that maybe aren't functional to going with full batch production with injection molding and the CNC tube bending. And we did find some processes that have been working for us, like resin casting. So we are making our own silicone molds. So we can get production quality plastic pieces that way ourselves. So the user won't know. The properties are the same, but they are a little bit more expensive up front before we do scale.
How will they improve over time?
Yes, so from the margin perspective, so right now developing in-house, we're at around a 72% gross profit margin for the Y-Canes. Once we accelerate that over to mass manufacturers, likely conversations right now are in China and Taiwan, that increases up to that 86% gross profit margin. For the rollator walker, yes. So right now, it costs us around $750 to manufacture by our best estimates with our manufacturing partners that are local. That is a 50% gross profit margin. The estimates that we've gotten from conversations overseas brings that down to about $375 per rollator, which would bring us up to a 75% gross profit margin.
How does it fold?
Great question.
Go into the back of a vehicle or a closet or?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's hard to demonstrate right now. We'll see it at showcase for sure. But that's two wheels in the front, pull back to the two wheels in the back. So it folds.
So it goes up, it stands up.
You would lift the back piece here, and then it folds.
And then it folds together.
That way.
So very similar to the current ones.
A senior can do on their own?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Yeah.
So who invented the new wheels?
That was me, yeah. So we took inspiration from what we're seeing in robotics, but because we want to be lightweight, we really had to make our own. So that's why we were doing injection molding, whereas most people do steel or aluminum, which adds a lot of weight. And then we also bring down the cost that way as well, because we're not a robotic product, so we can't get away with those prices quite as easily. So that was our biggest uncertainty and our biggest pull-through in the last few months. Yeah.
And something we are considering with the omnidirectional wheels is actually licensing out their IP, so they have their own patent. We would not license to individuals within our industry, but looking at the robotics industry, really great opportunities to get high gross profit margins from those companies and have that extra revenue stream for the company.
Your business plan suggests that you are going to have pre-orders for this available?
For the rollator, yes, correct.
When can I get one?
Awesome.
For my
future. Yes.
My future needs.
Definitely. So right now, as we're thinking about kind of the development timeline, we're looking at late 2024 to early 2025 for those pre-orders. So actually quite soon. In terms of the development, we are really confident in our ability to execute on everything we still need to create in order to get those to commercialization.
Judges get a discount?
Of course. Just send us an email and we've got you. Yeah, absolutely.
So does anything need to happen with the weight sensor, just in terms of like how much of that is off the shelf already? Do you need to miniaturize it, change anything to do with power? Help us understand just from a technical feasibility perspective what else still needs to happen.
Yeah, that is the other technical aspect that we're figuring out now. The first was our omnidirectional wheels. Figuring out how to adhere that strain gauge in there and keep it under quality control. That's where we're going to be using the SBIR grant funding and research to really figure out how feasible this is, especially for a consumer product, and then how we can scale it so it is great for an elongated use. But we have validated the tech right now on our walkers, putting the strain gauges on there. It's just fitting in that form factor that is consumer ready for that long-term use is what we're figuring out.
And those strain gauges, yes, are usually off the shelf. They're not something that we're like actively coding or developing ourselves.
How much do you need to shrink them by to get them into your form factor?
Strain gauges are actually pretty tiny. So we don't really need to do much. It's just finding the right supplier that fits our needs.
Do they have brakes?
Yes.
They do. Yeah. One thing we added.
Are they on the hands?
So you can pull up here. And that's what breaks
Yeah, we have
it.
levers, but we use
Correct,
disc
yeah.
brakes. So similar, actually, the one-to-one disc brakes that they have on electric scooters that can take 30-mile-an-hour speeds. But the most important part of that is it's variable. Typically, what we see with rollator walkers, pretty much all of them, are you got a stopper. So you're stop or go, and because of that, if you are unstable and you want to control your speed, you're stopping or you're going. It's either all or nothing. So that's where we do actually have that as more of a safety feature. So not only does it brake strong, but it brakes variably as well.
And how does it do in snow?
That's a great question coming from Minnesota.
Coming from Minnesota, that's something we think about quite often. So actually the omnidirectional wheels are our key advantage when it comes to snow compared to ones that are on the market right now. So those can go out and handle some of the toughest terrain that you'll see. Something that Stephen and I have talked about, we're avid hikers, and one thing we really want to do is actually take it out into the mountains, test it on the trails, and see how well it holds up.
If you need that, you're not going to be on the trails.
Might make it possible.
You know, gravel trails that aren't going up a mountain, right? So around a lake, per se.
So on the app, how far along are you in the development? And is that something that you guys did internally? Did you work with a third-party developer? So give us a little bit of background on the app.
Yeah, so we put a lot of work into the app into the earliest phases, and we got a proof of concept that we were able to test with physical therapists and some of our patients. We did kind of, with the pivot on the canes, have to refocus a bit, but we still do have the app ready. In order to get that done, I graduated with my undergrad degree in industrial design, but then I did a 7-month boot camp / working in industry for full stack web development, specifically for IoT. Now I'm back from my master's in robotics, where I can make this into my capstone project. So we're really trying to be between the two of us, acknowledge our gaps and skills, and then become a full stack entrepreneur between the two of us.
I love the statement of being able to give a hug.
Yes,
That was in your business
absolutely.
plan. Nicely said.
Yeah, you can show off a killer outfit because it's not in front of you, and it allows you to have a grandchild run up to you and give you a hug, or a friend.
Yeah, that's great. Other questions? We're all good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well done. Nice job. Wow. I think we did pretty good with our finalist teams. Why don't we take one more chance to congratulate all of our teams in the Heartland Challenge competition. To our folks on the live stream, thank you for joining us. This is where we must say goodbye to you. Thanks for your time. You can go back to watching the Masters now. Have a great afternoon. For those of you